Chapter 3382. Female Thief. Lingshan looked at Lin Yi surprised. You told her? Yeah, she knows. Otherwise, she wouldn't be this close to me. You know her personality, don't you? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Oh. Lingshan nodded and didn't say anything else. The five got in the car. Yu Dake stayed at home to look after the house, and the car headed towards Hidden Tang's house. On the way, Lin Yi felt like he had been to Hidden Tang's house before, but at the same time, he felt like he hadn't been there. There were a few fragments in his memory, but they didn't fit together. This made Lin Yi a little confused. What was wrong with him? Ever since he went crazy, Lin Yi seemed to have forgotten a lot of things. Some of them seemed to be very important, but Lin Yi had no recollection of them at all. This made Lin Yi feel helpless, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, Lin Yi didn't know what he'd forgotten. It was just a feeling, and even if he asked someone else, he wouldn't know how to ask. They wouldn't know what he'd forgotten or what he'd remembered. Lin Yi didn't even know who he'd been with when he'd forgotten those memories. Hidden Tang's house. After hearing that the investigation department had taken over the case, they sent people to investigate as fast as they could. Tang Taijung showed enough sincerity, sending eldest Tang to welcome them at the gate. Of course, from Tang Taijung's point of view, sending his eldest son to greet the people from the investigation department was already giving them enough face. In the past, the investigation department didn't need the head of the house to greet them personally. The jeep slowly approached, and Lin Yi stopped the car beside eldest Tang. But when he saw that only one person from Hidden Tang's house came to greet them, he couldn't help but frown. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't someone who liked to put on airs, but the Hidden Tang's face wasn't for Lin Yi, but for the investigation department, for Lingshan and Tianlong. Their attitude made Lin Yi very unhappy. Lingshan saw that Boss Tang had come to greet them and wanted to get out of the car, but Lin Yi stopped her. Big Bro Tang was originally waiting for the people in the car to get off, but when he saw that the car had stopped for a long time and no one got off, he suddenly became a little annoyed. Even if I beg your Supernatural Investigation Bureau, you don't have to put on airs like this, right? Even the strongest among you isn't at the heaven rank. What kind of ostentatious display are you putting on here? Do I need to personally invite you out of the car? As he thought of this, Big Bro Tang opened his mouth. There was a hint of resentment in his voice. Friend from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, why aren't you getting out of the car? What's the meaning of this? Lin Yi casually opened the window. Before, because of the film on the window, eldest brother Tang couldn't see the people inside the car, so he didn't know that Lin Yi was inside. When Lin Yi spoke, he was shocked. Is this how the Hidden Tang family asks for help? Lin Yi said coldly. We're here, and the Tang family sent you to welcome us alone? God. When Big Bro Tang heard Lin Yi speak, this voice was still fresh in his memory. Especially when he saw Lin Yi's face, he was suddenly scared. It's young hero Lin who has graced us with his presence. I thought it was someone from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. I used to be a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Didn't you know? Lin Yi sneered and asked. Huh? Big Bro Tang was stunned. He didn't expect the Supernatural Investigation Bureau to have such a strong backer. Of course, this backer had only recently become powerful. At the level of the Hidden Tang family, they could more or less come into contact with some of the things that happened in ancient times. They knew some of Lin Yi's deeds. In the ancient times, there weren't many people who dared to go against Lin Yi. Not to mention this, just from the hidden level alone, Lin Yi could already be said to have destroyed any family he wanted. Didn't House Zhao, who had hosted the Hidden House Summit, get wiped out just like that? At that thought, Big Bro Tang quickly said, My father is personally preparing a banquet for all of you. Please forgive me for not being a good host. I'll call him right now and ask if he's ready. Huh? Lin Yi chuckled, not denying it. Big Bro Tang quickly took out his phone and called Tang Taijung. Father, is the banquet ready? If it's ready, come out and welcome us. Young hero Lin and the others are here. Tang Taijung was sitting in the living room, waiting for Lingshan. When he received the call, he froze. Preparing a banquet? Didn't they already prepare a banquet? Plus, Tang Taijung, as the head of the house, didn't need to prepare a banquet himself? Wait, what did Big Bro Tang say? Young hero Lin was here? He was going to welcome him? Who was this young hero Lin? But Tang Taijung also knew that Big Bro Tang wouldn't call him for no reason. There had to be a reason why he was lowering his status in front of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. So, Tang Taijung stood up and said to Second Bro, go to the kitchen and tell them to prepare a banquet of the highest class. Yes, father. Second Bro Tang was a little puzzled. Why did his father change his mind with just a call from Big Bro? The banquet before was of a high standard, but that was only relative. It could only be said that it was used to entertain guests from the hidden world. The highest class banquet was used to entertain guests from the ancient world. Could it be that such a guest had come today? Tang Taijung thought about who this young hero Lin was as he walked. A few steps later, when he was almost at the door, he suddenly thought of a person. It made him shiver, and he quickened his steps again. When Tang Taijung reached the Tang Fortress, he saw Lin Yi in the driver's seat, talking to Big Bro Tang. He knew that he had guessed correctly. The only person who could make Big Bro Tang so nervous was Lin Yi. This young man, who didn't even put the ancient world in his eyes, had been suppressed by several families at the Hidden House Summit some time ago. But now, even the people from the ancient sects didn't dare to cause trouble for him. Things were really unpredictable. If Tang Taijung had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have suppressed Lin Yi, and he wouldn't have separated Big Bro Tang and Tang Yun from their father-daughter relationship at the banquet. It was a bad move. One wrong move, and everything went wrong. Young hero Lin, you're here. I didn't think that this matter would bother young hero Lin. It's such an honor to have you here, hero Lin, Tang Taijung said with a smile as he ran over to flatter Lin. Chapter 33:83. But his words stunned Lin Yi, who was House Tang's son-in-law. Since when did he become House Tang's son-in-law? Seeing Lin Yi standing there, Boss Tang felt awkward. Tang Taijung didn't know what Lin Yi's expression was and didn't know what to say. Shield bro, I think they've gone crazy thinking about their son-in-law. Yushu got out of the car and said to Lin, Right Ice Palace's Bingtang seems to be related to House Tang. Oh, Lin Yi understood. Could it be that House Tang heard that Bingtang was going to be his little wife, and so they treated him as their son-in-law? Seeing Lin Yi's indifferent expression, Boss Tang didn't dare to say more. He thought that Lin Yi was angry at House Tang for breaking off the relationship with Tang Yun at the birthday banquet. If Lin Yi's anger hadn't subsided, wouldn't it be suicide to say more? Young hero Lin, I've already ordered the kitchen to prepare dinner. Do you want me to sit now, or do you want to rest first? Tang Taijung didn't dare to mention Tang Yun anymore. He became more and more respectful towards Lin Yi. He even called himself I to ask for Lin Yi's forgiveness. Although there were some dishes that Tang Taijung had asked Second Bro to add later, it didn't mean that all the dishes had to be served before they could be eaten. So, with the addition of the dishes that had been prepared beforehand, it was time to sit down and enjoy the banquet. I'm not hungry nor tired. We came here to solve a problem. Let's talk about your hidden house Tang first. Lin Yi waved his hand and rejected Tang Taijung's suggestion. He went straight to the main topic. Lin Yi was a chef himself. He didn't need this dinner. He was also a practitioner. This kind of journey was nothing to him. Ah, that's good. Master Lin, Chief Song, this way please. Who are these three? Tang Taijung didn't know Yushu or Xiaoka. Hidden House Yushu, Thief Sex Flying Sparrow Warrior, and Sky Elixir Sex Kong Ming Ming's brother's fiancé. Lin Yi gave a simple introduction. They're all my closest friends. Ah, I've heard a lot about you. Tang Taijung quickly cupped his fists and said. However, he had never heard of these three people before, especially the last one, Kong Ming Ming of the Heavenly Elixir Sect. He knew Elder Kong, but how did Kong Ming Ming's brother's fiancé get involved with Lin Yi? This Lin Yi was really amazing. How could this be possible? Then Kong Ming Ming agreed. However, he seemed to have agreed. Otherwise, why would not even dare to fart until now? With that thought, Tang Taijung felt that Lin Yi was even more amazing. Elder Tang, you're really knowledgeable. Yushu used to be from the common house Chun. She just found out that she's from House Yu. She made up the name Flying Sparrow Warrior. Her name is Xiaoka, Lin Yi said. As for Wang Xinyan, I've already forced Kong Mingming to tell his brother to scram. She's my girlfriend now. Tang Taijung immediately blushed with shame. He had only said a few words of compliment. How could he have known that he had flattered the wrong person? He immediately felt a little depressed. The people around Mr. Lin are all ruthless people, so they must be famous, but he had heard that he had actually forced Kong Mingming's brother scram. Just how powerful did he have to be to force Kong Mingming to submit? The group entered the Tang house's guest room. Tang Taijung wanted to give the main seat to Lin Yi, but Lin Yi waved his hand and sat on the guest seat. Lin Yi didn't care at all. Elder Tang, it's not like we've never met before. Let's talk. All right, I won't hold back. It's like this. With that, Tang Taijung told Lin Yi and the others about the things that had happened in the Tang property. Of course, these were all things that Tang Taijung had told Lingshan before. So you're saying that these people have been robbing us these past 2 days? Lin Yi asked. Yes, they came yesterday, and the day before yesterday. They came consecutively. I don't know if they'll come again today. Tang Taijung said helplessly. Our hidden house Tang just started a lot of businesses in the common world. If this keeps up, we're going to go bankrupt. Although the hidden Tang family used to have business, it was all in the dark. Now that the Hidden Family Association's restrictions had failed, the Tang family became unscrupulous. Of course, it wasn't just the Tang family. Other hidden families were the same. Everyone ran to the common world to make money. Hidden families had many ways to make money anyway. As a matter of fact, the hidden Tang family wanted to earn a huge sum of money, so they invested all of their family's assets into many industries. The jewelry industry, the rare medicinal material industry, the retail and wholesale industry, the private loan industry, and so on. Originally, these industries had the support of House Tang, and they were all thriving. But who would have thought that a group of robbers would suddenly appear and start robbing House Tang's properties? Jewelry stores, rare medicine stores, retail stores, private lending companies, all of them were robbed. However, House Tang couldn't close down, or else the companies that had just gained popularity would have to start all over again. So, House Tang could only ask for help from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau while replenishing their resources. If that's the case, then why don't we just go to your stores and have a look? If someone tries to rob us, we'll be able to act immediately? Lin Yi said after some thought. That's a good suggestion, but the problem is that House Tang's properties are very scattered. We have properties in many cities nearby. With so many properties, if we go to one, we might not even see the robbers for a month. Tang Taijung said with a bitter smile. Fuck, aren't you hidden houses not allowed to do business? Why do you have so many properties? When Lin Yi heard that these properties weren't in the same place and were even in different areas, he glared at Tang Taijung. Then there's no other way. We can only wait until you get robbed, and then we'll go catch the robbers. That's the only way. Tang Taijung nodded. Although he knew that there might be losses, at least Lin Yi's arrival could minimize the losses. Then, everyone, let's go to the restaurant first? Then let's go. Lin Yi didn't have anything else to do, so he nodded and agreed. In order to get on Lin Yi's good side, Hidden House Tang had put in a lot of effort this time. The second Tang had the chefs pull out all the stops, making a feast that was similar to the Manchu Han Imperial Feast. Chapter 3384. Xinyan was a shy eater. This had always been her personality. Lingshan, on the other hand, was worried about the case, and so she only ate a little. Yushu was a foodie in the first place, and Xiaoka didn't get to eat anything good in the orphanage. With so much good food in front of her, it would be a waste if she didn't eat it. Naturally, she wanted to eat as much as she could. As the two of them were eating happily, Tang Taijung's cell phone suddenly rang. Tang Taijung wanted to reject the call. He didn't want to disturb Lin Yi and the others. But Lin Yi stopped him. Answer it. It might be something. All right. Tang Taijung nodded and quickly picked up the phone. However, after listening to 2 sentences, his face changed. What? The gold shop in Lihuan County got robbed? All right, I got it. Elder Tang, is something wrong? Lin Yi asked as he put down the cutlery in his hand. That's right. Our hidden house Tang shop in Lihuan County got robbed, and they're committing the crime right now. Tang Taijung seemed very worried. Let's go now, Ling Shan and I. Shu, Xiaoke, and Xinyan, you guys stay here and continue eating. We don't need you guys. Lin, he said quickly. I can help you. Xiaoke threw the plate in her hands away. It's just some sky-class early phase. It'll be fine. Lin, he waved his hand. You guys are tired from the long journey and haven't eaten. Ling Shan and I will be fine. Then, all right. Xiaoke was very obedient. Of course, she listened to the male thief. She knew that Lin he wouldn't do anything he wasn't confident in, and if there really was danger, he wouldn't reject her. Lin Yi, Ling Shan, Tang Taijung, and Boss Tang left the banquet hall quickly, and Lin Yi asked as they walked, how far is this Lihuan County from here? 40 minutes by car. Tang Taijung said, after some thought. Then we don't need to go. Lin Yi stopped. Tang Taijung stared blankly for a moment before he immediately understood Lin Yi's meaning. He bitterly smiled and said, yeah, these people rob very quickly. The slowest one didn't take more than 15 minutes. They came and left in a hurry. If we rush over now, we won't even see their shadows. Grandfather Tang, when did you start fighting with those people? How did you get there before those people left? Lin Yi asked. It's like this. The first place they robbed was one of the Tang family's own material management stations. This is the organization responsible for the daily expenses of our hidden Tang family. There are some natural treasures and cash in the station. Elder Tang replied, that place is relatively close to here, so I was able to get there in a short amount of time. I see. After that, the places they robbed became the Tang family's shops and companies? Lin Yi nodded and asked. Yes. Elder Tang sighed. It seems I have overlooked this point. Based on the current situation, it will be very difficult to fight them face to face. Let's not talk about that for now. What I find strange is, how do these robbers know what industries your Tang family owns? They even know which city and street it is located in. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Could it be that you have a mole inside? Lin Yi couldn't help but suspect this. It was quite an inconceivable matter. That's not it. It's because the account books and distribution maps of these industries were in the material management station before. The material management station is also responsible for coordinating the cash flow of these shops. Those criminals got it when they robbed the material management station. Tang Taijung explained. So that's how it is. Then you were really careless and gave yourself to the robbers. Lin Yi felt a headache coming on. Do you have a copy of the distribution map of your family's industries? Let me have a look. Yes. Tang Taijung heard this and quickly turned to Elder Tang. Boss, go get second and you to the scene of the crime. Bring the distribution map of our family's industries here. Yes, father. Eldest brother Tang replied and retreated. After a while, Elder Tang returned with a map of their hidden family's industries and spread it on an empty table in the dining room. Mr. Lin, look. Tang Taijung pointed at a few industries on a map. These industries have been robbed, and this is Lihuan County. The gold shop here was robbed today. Do you have the sequence of the robberies? Mark the sequence of the numbers. I'll see if I can find the pattern of the robbers' movements. Lin, he said to Tang Taijung. Ling Shan's eyes lit up at Lin Yi's words. She couldn't help but admire Lin Yi. In fact, this was how she usually solved cases, but she was surprised that Lin Yi mentioned it. Ling Shan admired Lin Yi's speed in solving cases, but Lin Yi didn't follow the rules. It was like the first time he found the bank robbers. He just walked around the cliff and found a location of the robbers. It was the same after that. So Ling Shan thought that Lin Yi was using some special abilities of a practitioner to solve cases. But today, it seemed that Lin Yi was very familiar with the process. Perhaps it was because there weren't many clues this time. So Lin Yi started following the normal procedure. Before, Lin Yi was confident that he could find the suspects directly. All right. Tang Taijung quickly picked up his pen and started drawing on the map. But when he was done, Lin Yi was speechless. This was a completely random crime. One day, the next, there was no pattern to follow. Many of the crime locations were completely different from each other. For the robbers, this was the most time-consuming method, but was also the most effective way to avoid waiting for the right opportunity. It seemed that these robbers weren't afraid of anyone, but they were still worried about something. But this increased the difficulty of solving the case for Lin, E, and the others. Lingshan, what do you think? Lin, he wasn't a professional, after all. He had a lot of unique ways to solve cases, but he couldn't do anything about this kind of theory. Chapter 3385. If push comes to shove, we'll just have to wait at a place they haven't robbed before. Wait, Elder Tang, what do you mean by this? The 3rd and 6th crime locations are the same? Yes. Who would have thought that they'd go back to the same shop again? We just restocked the goods and got robbed again. Elder Tang said, troubled. It's a random crime, and there's a possibility of going there again. That makes it harder for us to wait. Lingshan said as she slapped her forehead, evidently troubled. I think they might rob this place next time. Yushu walked over with a piece of tiramisu in her hand, sucking on her fingers as she pointed at an antique shop on the map. Is there any proof? Lingshan blinked, not understanding why Yushu would say that. I think so. Yushu didn't explain. What do you think? Prophet Shu's better than you, right? Prophet Shu? What a mess. Lingshan frowned. Shu, don't talk nonsense. You're targeting me, but don't bring your emotions into work. This kind of judgment can affect a lot of things. Lin, he wanted to tell Yushu to stop messing around, but when she called herself Prophet Shu, he thought of something and his heart moved. Yushu's words had come true many times in the past, such as Zhao Qibing's skyscraper and legs. Lin, he used to think that it was a coincidence, but after hearing Yuxing's words, Shu and Ning, as prophets, should have a sixth sense in this area. Then, what she said about robbing an antique shop might really be possible. With that thought, Lin, he said, let's go, we'll go set it up tonight. Shield bro trust Shu. Yushu was very pleased that Lin, he listened to her. Lingshan paused. You trust her that much? We're just going to find a random place to wait for them anyways. Since Shu suggested it, we'll go here then. Lin, he smiled casually. But the criminals didn't seem to have done anything to antique shops before. From a certain point of view, they probably wouldn't choose antique shops. After all, there's not much cash here, and antiques aren't easy to cash out. Lingshan analyzed. If this was really in Jiang Wen's doing, he would be able to sell the drugs and firearms, let alone the antiques. Lin, he said. All right, let's go there then. Lingshan didn't really trust Yushu, but she trusted Lin a lot. She nodded in agreement. Therefore, they packed up and went to an antique shop in Keikai Town that very night. Keikai Town was an ancient town with a large antique market. The Tang family antique store was located there. Lin, he was driving a Grand Cherokee, while eldest brother Tang, Tang Taizhong, and the others were riding in a Land Cruiser. Both cars had excellent off-road performance, so it was not a problem for them to traverse the small roads of the ancient town. Lin Yi's guess was right. This was all Jiang Wen's doing. Jiang Wen had failed once in Donghai, and his plan to rob a hidden house had to be put on hold. After a period of silence, he saw that the time was right and decided to make a comeback, targeting the hidden house of Tang. First, hidden house Tang was quite far from Donghai, and Lin, he wouldn't bother with their business. Second, hidden house Tang's business was very big, and they had invested in many profitable industries. It would be easy for them to get some benefits. Master One, I heard that hidden house Tang asked for help from the occult investigation department, and that bitch Lingshan got transferred to the department as the vice director. She's our bane. Chunjies said unhappily. Why don't we just kill her and be done with it? No, that song girl is Lin Yi's woman. I hate Lin Yi, but that guy's getting more and more vicious these days. Even ancient people aren't a match for him. It's best if I don't mess with him. He has a lot of people backing him now, too. I didn't think that Meng Yao would become the palace master of the ancient night palace. I really can't get into a conflict with Lin Yi. Jiang Wen said hatefully. Just avoid that song girl, and if we really meet her, don't hurt her. Just retreat. Talk to the hypnotist later and give him an order. Understood. Chuanjia nodded. Then where should we rob tomorrow? Tomorrow. Jiang Wen opened up a map in front of him. It was a map of the properties he'd robbed from House Tang. This was a great weapon for robberies. Jiang Wen pointed at a location on the map. This antique shop. We've robbed so many gold shops. It's time for a change. We'll take some antiques and smuggle them out. All right, I'll go set it up right away. Chu and Jie replied. Lingshan didn't think that the robbers would target this antique shop. After all, the transportation here wasn't very convenient. From an escape perspective, it wasn't easy to run away from. There were only small roads in the fields, and even an off-road car wouldn't be able to go that fast. Of course, she was only thinking from the perspective of a normal criminal. Jiang Wen wouldn't even think about these problems. This place was 3 hours away from the Tang headquarters, and even if the roads weren't easy to run from, his men would be long gone by the time the Tang came. Plus, even if they did come, they might not be able to stop his men. This was why Jiang Wen was so fearless and chose to target House Tang alone. The shopkeeper of the antique shop was a former disciple of House Tang, only mystic mid-phase. He wasn't a match for the robbers at all, and he'd been under a lot of pressure these days. Now that Tang Taizhong had come with help, he let out a breath of relief. Disciple Tang Xiaogui greets the head of the Tang family, young Master Tang, second Master Tang, and all the masters present. Tang Xiaogui said respectfully, "You don't have to be so polite to us, but to these people, you have to be extremely respectful." This is Master Lin Yi. This is Director Song of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. This is Miss Chun, Miss Wang, and Miss Yu. They are all powerful heroines. Tang Taizhong introduced. Yes, Tang Xiaogui replied quickly. The food here was obviously not as good as that in the Tang family fort. Although Tang Taizhong also tried his best to order banquets from the most famous restaurants in the town, the standard was not as good as that of the Tang family fort, and the variety of dishes were not as good. Chapter 3386. It was a quiet night. Lin Yi hugged Xinyan and practiced, while Xiaoke and Yushu laid beside Lin Yi. There were limited rooms here, and Lin Yi stayed here in case something unexpected happened. Yushu didn't want to stay in an inn, so they slept together with Lin Yi. Fortunately, Lin Yi, Yushu, and Xiaoke were close enough that they didn't need to be shy. They were tired, too, and fell asleep the moment they lay down. Lin Yi, on the other hand, kept an eye on the movements outside as he practiced. However, these robbers didn't seem to be working at night. They had been doing it in the day, as if they were looking down on House Tang. They didn't want to commit crimes at night. The next day was uneventful as well. There were quite a few customers in the antique shop, but there weren't many transactions. Most of the customers paid with credit cards, and very few paid with cash. This made Lingshan frown. She felt that the robbers shouldn't have chosen this shop with such a low cash flow. Morning, noon, and afternoon were quiet. The robbers didn't come here, nor did they come to the other shops of House Tang. Just when Lingshan thought that Yushu was bullshitting, a few people in white shirts and black pants barged into the antique shop without warning. After they came in, without saying a word, they began to move things down from the antique shelves and move them to a white van at the entrance. Lin Yi had heard about how these people did things, but seeing it with his own eyes, he still felt that these people were too arrogant. They didn't put anyone in their eyes at all. However, Lin Yi felt that these people's eyes were a little dull, similar to the cyborgs Jiang Wen had made. "Stop!" Lin Yi shouted at one of the cyborgs. But the cyborgs didn't seem to hear him at all. Lin Yi had no choice but to block the cyborg's path. This time, the biohuman finally noticed Lin Yi. He threw the antique bottle in his hand at Lin Yi. These people were all following the hypnotist's instructions. They did not have their own thoughts, only instructions. The hypnotist had shown them Lingshan's picture, and Lingshan was on their whitelist. They wouldn't attack her, but Lin Yi wasn't. The cyborg, on the other hand, started attacking Lin Yi the moment he was stopped. This antique bottle was worth at least a few 100,000 yuan. Although Lin Yi had the money, he didn't want to waste it. He directly put it into the space of the jade pendant. Anyway, it was a mess now, and no one had asked about this. He could just give a perfunctory answer afterwards. Tang Taizhong wouldn't dare to ask too much. Indeed, although Tang Taizhong was puzzled about where the bottle went, he didn't even dare to fart. There was no other reason. He was afraid of affecting Lin Yi's battle. If it distracted Lin E, he would be guilty. So if a broken bottle was gone, then so be it. It didn't matter how it disappeared. Boom! Lin E threw a punch at the robber in front of him. He only used the 10th form of Frenzy Fist. His goal was to test the strength of this cyborg in front of him. However, what disappointed Lin, it was that he only used the 10th form of Frenzy Fist, and the cyborg's chest caved in. The cyborg was sent flying and fell to the ground. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and struggled, but he couldn't get up. This kind of strength was not a strong opponent at all. Logically speaking, with Tang Taijung's strength, he could easily kill these people. Why was he injured instead? Lin E was puzzled, but what happened next solved his doubts. The cyborgs who were moving the antiques felt that their companion was being attacked. They all put down what they were doing and attacked Lin E together. There were a total of 5 people left, and all of them attacked Lin E. When Yu Xiaoka saw this scene, she instantly panicked. She wanted to use Nuwa's heaven-mending technique to protect Lin E. However, Lin E saw this and shook his head, saying, "There's no need. I'll test their strength first. If it doesn't work, I'll call you." Okay, Yu Xiaoka nodded, but she still used the mantra. However, she didn't use it. She was just prepared. The 5 people attacked Lin E at the same time. Lin E used the mantra to defend himself, and then he hit one of them. Boom! 4 fists landed on Lin E at the same time. Only one person was sent flying by Lin E. Lin E still used the 10th form of Frenzy Fist. Early stage of Heaven class. Lin E felt the strength of these 4 people. They attacked together. Even if Lin E used pure chi to protect his body, he still almost vomited blood. He quickly used the mantra to heal his injuries. Although the injuries were not serious, Lin E finally understood how Tang Taijung got injured. At most, he could fight 5. He attacked one person, and the others attacked him at the same time. It would be strange if he didn't get injured. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Yi's strength was much higher than theirs, and Lin Yi could heal his injuries quickly, he would really be injured. And so, Lin Yi did the same thing, taking out every single biohuman one by one. He couldn't avoid taking a few more punches, but the good thing was that these people didn't have any sort of pattern to their attacks. They were all direct, and Lin Yi was able to react and defend with ease. The robbers were all beaten to the ground by Lin Yi. The first 5, Lin Yi didn't show any mercy. Looking at the degree of damage to their chests, they probably wouldn't last long. But the last one, Lin Yi only knocked him to the ground, temporarily incapacitating him. Lin Yi wanted to keep at least one person alive, although Lin Yi didn't think that he would be able to get anything out of them. Lingshan, capture this person and hand the rest to Elder Tang. Send them to the cemetery. Lin Yi said, "All right." Lingshan skillfully cuffed the last biohuman. The others were clearly not going to survive. Tang Taijung immediately ordered the Tang disciples to help, dragging them away. The antiques that were moved to the car were also returned. Tang Taijung was very grateful to Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi, he would have lost a lot of money today. Not to mention, he would have lost tens of millions. Young hero Lin, thank you for helping us today. Tang Taijung said gratefully. I prepared a small gift for you. I hope you won't reject it. What is it? Lin Yi didn't pretend to be polite and asked directly. Chapter 3387. Plus, Tang Taijung was really afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't want it. He wanted to build a relationship with Lin Yi so that he could trouble Lin Yi the next time. So he had to make Lin Yi happy. It's a bowl used by a leader of the everyday and everyday sect. It's a rare antique. How much is it worth? Lin Yi asked back. This, if it's a market price, it should be around 10 to 20 million, right? Tang Taijung didn't expect Lin Yi to ask like that, but he still made a rough estimate. After all, any practitioner house that got their hands on something like this wouldn't sell it easily. This was something that could be traded for training resources, and it couldn't be measured with money. Oh, then 15 million. I'll give you an account number, and you can transfer the money over. Lin Yi said directly. You can keep the bowl for yourself, or you can sell it to the everyday and everyday sect. You can get a good price. Ugh, isn't it just 15 million? I'll give you 20 million. Hero Lin, you misunderstood me. This bowl is a thank you gift, and I'm not done yet. Tang Taijung gave the bowl to Lin Yi because he thought that Lin Yi wouldn't lack money. Lin Yi's cauldron was a very profitable item, so he didn't mention money. If he knew that Lin Yi liked money, he would have asked first. Oh, that's fine. Xiaoka, give him the account number. Lin Yi wasn't very interested in the bowl, so he put it in the jade space. The account number is XXXXX, and the name is Songshan Orphanage. Xiaoka said. Ahem. Okay, I'll remember. Tang Taijung paused. He realized that Lin Yi was doing this for the orphanage, not for himself. But it didn't matter. The money was given because of Lin Yi. It didn't matter who he gave it to, as long as Lin Yi was grateful. If there's nothing else, let's go back first. Lin Yi looked at Yushu, surprised. It seemed that Yushu's prophecy ability was real. Yu Yuxing's words made sense. Okay, I will arrange the car. Tang Taijung quickly responded. Little Shu, I really have to thank you this time. I didn't expect you to be able to guess their crime location. Lingshan, on the other hand, was very straightforward. Yushu had guessed the location correctly, and that was why she and Lin Yi were able to get rid of the robbers. They'd even captured one of them. Yushu, other than Lin Yi, was the biggest contributor. What do you think? Are you convinced now? Yushu said proudly. So what if I admire you for solving the case? Lingshan, on the other hand, didn't let her emotions affect her decisions. She said seriously, Shu, do you think the robbers will commit more crimes? Where's their next target? It's still here, Yushu said. It's still here. Lingshan paused. Tang Taijung, who had just gone to prepare the car, paused as well. He quickly asked, Young Master Lin, Chief Song, should we stay here for a while? Tang Taijung trusted Yushu very much. She was a prophet, after all. She said they would rob an antique shop, so there had to be a reason why Yushu said the robbers would come again. We have to. Lin, he shook his head. They've lost this time. Logically speaking, we wouldn't stay here. The robbers have the same thought, so they'll do the opposite. If we stay here and they see us, they won't move. You're right. Tang Taijung nodded. Then what should we do? We'll pretend to leave first and find a place to stay. We'll be able to get to this place as soon as possible. Lin Yi said. That's the only way. Thank you, young Master Lin. Tang Taijung said quickly. Trouble is secondary. I've helped House Tang solve their problem. So shouldn't we talk business? Lin Yi said faintly as he looked at Tang Taijung. This? What business? Tang Taijung paused. He thought that Lin Yi wanted some sort of reward. After all, the reward was only for helping out this time. If he wanted Lin Yi to stay here, he'd have to pay a price. Why else would Lin Yi keep helping him? Let's find a place to stay first. We'll talk later. Lin Yi waved his hand and walked out. Chapter 3388. That's... Tang Taijung paused. He didn't expect Lin Yi to be talking about this. In actuality, how could Tang Taijung not know that the department controlled the common houses, but there weren't many of them that they could actually control? They could only coordinate among them. The one who was truly effective was Lin Yi. Lin Yi's cultivator union made these common houses submit to Lin Yi, listening to Lin Yi's orders. Only then did the department's words matter. Now, the department was probably starting to make a move on the hidden houses. Should he agree or not? Logically speaking, House Tang asking for help from the department was equivalent to throwing out an olive branch, but House Tang was more inclined towards a cooperative relationship. Things could be discussed and not controlled. But since Lin Yi had said it, he didn't dare to reject, and he was afraid of losing face for the hidden houses. Next, I'm preparing to expand the scope of the Practitioners Association. My Practitioners Association and the Supernatural Investigation Department are two different groups. I've already appointed Lingshan as the vice chairwoman, helping me manage these things. Lin Yi didn't wait for Tang Taijung's reply and continued. The hidden houses that join the Cultivator Union will receive my protection, but they'll also have to accept Chairman Song's management. Of course, we won't care if anything happens to those who don't join. After all, our energy is limited, and we can only help the members of the Cultivator Union. Elder Tang, what's your decision? Ah, it's young hero Lin's Cultivator Society. I know that. I've been wanting to join for a long time. I heard that Hidden House Han, House Shuang, and House Pai are all members? Tang Tai-jung asked. Yes, they're definitely the first batch. Linny nodded. The rest is up to you, Elder Tang. If you agree now, you'll be one of the first batch. You'll be treated differently. All right, I'll join. Tang Tai-jung didn't hesitate anymore and made the decision. Hidden House Tang is willing to join young hero Lin's Cultivator Union and will be under Chairman Song's management. Well, if that's the case, then there's nothing else. I'm going to rest. I still have to fight the robbers tomorrow. Lin nodded with satisfaction. Things are going well. Of course, if it weren't for the robbers, the Hidden Tang family probably wouldn't have agreed so easily. After all, the situation was pressing. All right, young hero Lin, please. Tang Tai-jung hurriedly stood up to send him off. Tang Yu and the others also stood up. Lin nodded and went to rest, but Yushu and Lingshan had to be in the same room as Lin Yi. Xiaoke had to join them as well. Still, Lin Yi wasn't actually going to sleep. He was training with Xin Yan in his arms, and it didn't really matter if there was one more or one less person in the room. And so, a rather ridiculous scene happened at night. Lin Yi hugged Xin Yan and laid on the bed. Lingshan, on the other hand, was very happy today. The Occult Investigation Department was going to shine in her hands. In the past, the department couldn't even control the noble houses, but now they could control the hidden noble houses. Only Lingshan could understand the difference. The Occult Investigation Department was finally strong, and Lingshan, as the vice director, felt very proud. And so, in her heart, Lingshan loved Lin Yi very much. Seeing Lin Yi hugging Xin Yan on the bed, she couldn't wait to lie down on the other side of Lin Yi. It wasn't that she was in a rush, but this was the only way she could express her gratitude and love for Lin Yi. But seeing that Lingshan was on the bed, Yushu wasn't going to back down. Hey, Song Fox, I'm Shield Bro's small wife, and I'm the one who solved the case today. I want to sleep next to Shield Bro. Lingshan didn't want to let Yushu have it. She was the one who took the initiative, so how could she let someone else have it? She was usually very domineering towards other people, but remembering that Yushu was the one who solved the case today, she hesitated and moved away. I'll let you sleep then. Oh. Yushu didn't hold back and happily laid down next to Lin Yi. But when it came to Xiaoke, she didn't fight for it anymore. No matter what, the male thief would always belong to her, and the others could do whatever they wanted. Xiaoke laid down quietly next to Lingshan. They were both very petite, and the 8-meter-long bed was more than enough for them to sleep on. Actually, no one dared to do anything sneakily when sleeping on the same bed. Even Yushu didn't dare move recklessly, because Lin Yi was in the middle of practicing. It wouldn't be a joke if he went crazy. Yushu could still remember the last time she went crazy. If it weren't for Tang Yun, Lin Yi wouldn't have woken up at all. These days, he'd been fighting and running all the time. Even a god of war like Lin Yi was feeling a bit tired. But with Xin Yan's help, the more energy he used up, the easier it was for him to replenish his energy at night. These days, he could clearly feel that his third stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery was showing signs of completion, and this was a very pleasant surprise to him. However, reaching the perfection of the third level of the Art of Dragon Mastery was just the beginning. He still needed to forge a heaven-ranked weapon of his own. Only with a heaven-ranked weapon could he open the fourth stone door. Who knew what kind of benefits lay behind the fourth stone door? Lin Yi was looking forward to it. Yushu, Lingshan, and Xiaoke fell into a deep sleep after a long day. Lin Yi had no choice but to put the energy stones under Xin Yan's bed, but there were too many of them. It wasn't a problem for Xin Yan. After Lin Yi left, only the hidden Tangs were left in the meeting room. Let's hear it. What's your stance on my decision? Tang Tai-jung asked the members of the Tang family. Chapter 3389. That's right. That's what happened. Second Tang nodded. The hidden houses that were close to Lin Yi are getting stronger and stronger, and even the ancient people don't dare bully them anymore. House Zhao, on the other hand, who went against Lin Yi, Didn't they turn to dust now? Even now, the ancient House Dongfang, House Feng, Black Horse, and the everyday sect all have a grudge against Lin Yi. But who would dare cause trouble for Lin Yi? The weakest ancient House Dark Knight, on the other hand, has become stronger because of Lin Yi. If it weren't for the fact that we didn't have any connections before, I would have suggested using Lin Yi's docs a long time ago. Yui, what do you think? Tang Taijung was very pleased with his two sons' support. He was afraid that they'd go against him. Not only would they offend Lin Yi, they'd also push House Tang into a pit of fire. Grandpa, I think you've made the right decision. Right now, the training world is in chaos, and the Hidden Houses Arbitration Association is useless. We need a powerful organization or expert to intimidate these powers, or else everything will be in chaos, and that won't do us any good. Tang Yui nodded. What we need to do is develop stably. House Tang is weak in the first place, and if things really get chaotic, we'll be the ones getting bullied. Words are crude, but logic isn't. Yui's words are a little undervaluing, but that's the truth. Tang Taijung nodded. If that's the case, then we'll have to report to Chairman Song if anything big happens in the future. He's too busy, and he might not have time for us. When something big happens, we'll go to young hero Lin for help. Yes. The Tangs quickly nodded. In actuality, Tang Yui really wanted to talk to Lin Yi privately, but there wasn't a suitable opportunity. He could only give up. The biohumans he sent out didn't come back, either. Jiang Wen was panicking when he received a report from Xiaochun. Master Wen, it's bad. Those biohumans are all dead. Xiaochun rushed to Jiang Wen. Dead? What happened? Could it be that the potion lost its effect? Jiang Wen paused. These cyborgs all relied on the professor's medicine to increase their strength, but it wasn't permanent. After a while, these cyborgs wouldn't even be as strong as normal humans. That was why Jiang Wen asked this question. No, young Master One, according to the video on the van, Lin Yi is here. Xiao Chun said helplessly. What? Lin Yi is here? Is this for real? Why is he here? Isn't it just the people from the investigation department? Jiang Wen slammed the table and stood up. Let me see. Okay, I'll get the video for you. Xiao Chun quickly went to get the video. Soon, the video was brought over. Jiang Wen's face was dark as he looked at it. He didn't expect Lin Yi to interfere again. He chose to hide House Tang because it was far from Donghai, and he didn't have much of a relationship with Lin Yi. He felt that Lin Yi shouldn't meddle in other people's business. Who would have thought that Ling Shan would become the vice director of the department, and even Lin Yi would come to help? How many of our test subjects are left? Jiang Wen asked. Only 6 left, Little Pure said. It wasn't easy to find a test subject that could be injected with the medicine. Normal people wouldn't be able to handle the strength of the medicine, and they'd die immediately after the injection. You had to have a strong body. In other words, this person had to have strength close to golden class. Even if they weren't golden class, they had to be an outstanding fighter in a gang or one of the top few fighters in the underground fighting arena. People like that were hard to find. Jiang Wen spent a lot of effort to find a dozen of them, and some of them even failed. Even with strength like that, it wasn't a 100% success rate. In the common world, people like that were too rare. After all, golden class masters were rare, and these people were close to golden class. Naturally, they were very rare. He couldn't go to the noble houses to capture them. Could he? Those noble houses had more or less connections with Lin Yi, and the hidden noble houses weren't easy to mess with. Robbing was fine, but capturing people wasn't easy. He was planning to use these biohumans to do something big, but who would have thought that Lin Yi would kill 5 of them in one go and capture one? This was a huge loss. There's only 6 left. Jiang Wen frowned. These 6 might not all be successful. Young Master One, should we continue with the next step, or should we stop? Xiaochun asked carefully. Of course, why not? It wasn't easy for Jiang Wen to get rich. There was no way he'd give it up so easily. He slammed the table. From the recordings, Lin Yi and the others have already left this place. So, we'll be robbing here tomorrow. This antique shop again? Xiao Chun paused, thinking that Jiang Wen's idea was a brilliant one. Master Wen, you're right. No one would have thought that we'd come back and kill them. That Lin Yi's already gone. and it'll take him a few hours to come back. Our men would have left long ago after we're done. Yes, this time, we can also rob a hotel near the Tang family, Jiang Wen said as he looked at the map. Here, there's another hotel. We can't rob hotels anymore, but since we're going there, we might as well rob them all. Don't let go of anything valuable. Yes. Xiaochu knew that Jiang Wen was going all out this time. He wanted as much as he could to make this trip worthwhile. But Xiaochun was curious. Master Wen, how do you think Lin, Yi, and the others knew that we were going to rob the antique shops here? Do they have the ability to predict things? How is that possible? I think it's just blind luck. But that Lin Yi kid is a little weird. He might have analyzed something. Jiang Wen said after some thought. Analyzed? Didn't you pick these places randomly, Master Wen? How did you do that? Xiaochun was even more confused. Chapter 3390. He was now a high-level criminal, so he often read some criminal psychology books. There was also an introduction to this aspect. Of course, whether it was true or not, he didn't know. I see. Then next, Xiaochun was wondering if Lin, he would be able to figure out what was going to happen next. This robbery wasn't a random one. I made this decision after I found out that Lin, he was involved and after Lin, he left. It's different from the random ones. So Lin, E, and the others won't be able to figure it out. Jiang Wen said, if Lin, E figured it out, why would he leave? Wouldn't he just stay in the antique shop and wait? That's true. Xiaochun nodded with relief after hearing that. But as soon as Xiaochun finished speaking, a series of rapid knocks came from the door. Jiang Wen frowned, but said, Pure, go see who's here. Yes, sir. Xiao Chun went to open the door and found that it was one of his trusted subordinates, called Little Lunatic. Not good, Xiaochun bro, Little Crazy said, as soon as she entered the door. What's with the panic? Also, call Master when you come in. Xiao Chun frowned slightly. If it weren't for the fact that this little crazy girl was pretty and reliable, he wouldn't have nurtured her. Yes, Master, when something happened. Little crazy girl quickly nodded. According to the ambushes we set up at the entrance, Lin Yi's group didn't leave this place. They're probably hiding around here. What? Jiang Wen's eyes went wide. It couldn't be a coincidence, right? He was just about to continue robbing the antique shop when he received a report saying that Lin Yi hadn't left. This Lin Yi was too amazing. Master Wen, should we go somewhere else? Xiaochun was startled as well. How did Lin Yi figure it out? This didn't seem realistic. Wasn't this a little too strange? Thinking about all the things they've been doing these past few days, all of them getting ruined by Lin, Xiao Chun couldn't help but wonder if Lin Yi was their bane. Find another place? Jiang Wen had regained his composure by this point. He paused and smiled coldly. Why not? Not only are we not changing this time, but we're also injecting the fourth medicine into the test subject. If Lin Yi really interferes, then we'll let him stay there forever. Fourth improved potion. Xiao Chun was stunned after hearing that. Young Master 1, Professor Yin said that the fourth improved potion is for Earth rank and above experts to inject. If it's injected into these experimental subjects, they won't be able to withstand it. Even if they can, they won't be able to exert their full strength. Moreover, even if they don't die after the injection, they'll be crippled after recovery. They can't be used again. I know. Go get the professor. I'll ask him if there's a possibility. Jiang Wen was evidently determined. He waved his hand, signaling Pure to go get the professor. All right. Xiao Chun nodded and instructed Little Crazy to call for help. It wasn't long before the professor came in. Young Master 1, you were looking for me? It's like this. If we were to inject the fourth improved potion into these subjects, would it have the desired effect? Jiang Wen asked directly. The fourth improved potion was created by my uncle, Professor Benjamin II. This potion is targeted at masters above the Earth rank, and only masters above the Earth rank can withstand it. If it is used on a lower rank, it is very likely to cause the death of the recipient. Professor Yin said, So you're saying that it's impossible? Jiang Wen frowned. It's not impossible. It's just a little troublesome. Plus, the subject wouldn't be able to reach the Sky class late phase peak that Master One had predicted. It'd be good if they could reach Sky class late phase. The professor said, "Oh, that's enough. What do we do? Tell me." Jangwon's eyes lit up. "It's like this. We can first use the first improved potion to stimulate the subject's body's limit, using up all of his stamina in advance. Then we inject the fourth improved potion. There's a chance of success, but there's no guarantee of success." The professor explained, "There's bound to be a subject that can't take it and die immediately. Plus, the subject's lifespan is limited. It'll probably only be an hour or so before the subject dies. An hour? That's enough." Jangwon sighed. "Professor Ian, it's not like you don't know how much of a threat Lin Yi is to us. Lin Yi's the one causing trouble for us so many times. If it weren't for him, we'd be making a lot of money already." "That's true. I'll try my best then." The professor thought about it and gritted his teeth. "I'll call my master tonight and see if he has any good ideas." "Okay, thanks for your hard work," Jangwon said, satisfied. The night passed quickly, and the sky was already bright. Lin Yi stretched and stood up. Xinyan was still sound asleep, and Lin Yi didn't want to disturb her. He wanted her to absorb as much energy as possible. Yushu woke up as well when Lin Yi woke up. She couldn't sleep well either. "Shield bro, you're awake?" Lin Yi made a shushing gesture before pointing at Xinyan. "Let her rest for a bit." "Okay." Yushu didn't have any animosity towards Xinyan. Perhaps in her eyes, people who were good to Lin Yi were good people. She could get along with them. "I'll go get something to eat. You guys wait for me." Lin Yi didn't know that Jangwon already knew that he was here, so he didn't bring them to the hotel's restaurant for breakfast in order to keep a low profile. "I want fried eggs," Yushu said. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded and walked out of the room. He didn't expect to see Tang Yuyu waiting for him at the door. Or rather, Tang Yuyu had never left. He had been waiting for Lin Yi. This surprised Lin. "Mr. Lin," Tang Yuyu said respectfully, "are you here for breakfast?" "I'll go get it for you and send it to your room." "No need. We'll go together." Lin Yi waved his hand. "When did you get here?" Chapter 3391. "It's nothing. You don't have to be so careful. We have a good relationship." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. He could feel Tang Yuyu's caution and knew what he was thinking. He smiled. "Your grandfather is your grandfather. Back at the Hidden House Summit, he wanted to kill me too. That's reasonable, but we have a good relationship. From now on, won't you be in charge of the Tang family? No need to be so reserved. Just call me Lin Yi." "Okay." Gratitude flashed across Tang Yuyu's face. "Then I'll call you Brother Lin from now on." "Brother Lin, my sister is now," but Tang Yuyu was a bit confused. He called Lin Yi Brother Lin, so he should be Lin Yi's brother-in-law, right? But now he didn't dare call him that. "Your sister?" Lin Yi paused. "Who is your sister?" Tang Yuyu saw that Lin Yi's attitude was good and wanted to get closer to Lin Yi, but he didn't think that Lin Yi would act like this when he mentioned his sister. He stopped. "Nothing. Don't think about those messy things. I have enough women by my side. Don't think about marriage." Lin Yi misunderstood Tang Yuyu. He thought that Tang Yuyu wanted to give his sister to Lin Yi. Tang Yuyu paused. He was even more confused. He didn't know what Lin Yi meant. Did he break up with Tang Yin? Thinking of this, Tang Yuyu didn't dare say much. As far as he was concerned, Shuigu must have caused Lin Yi to be in a bad mood. However, he couldn't say anything in a fight between gods. He could only lower his head and accompany Lin Yi all the way to the hotel's restaurant. Lin Yi took some dishes. He didn't take much. The room was full of women, so he couldn't eat too much. Seeing Tang Yuyu being so cautious, Lin Yi didn't know what was wrong with him. What did he say to make him so cautious? However, Lin Yi couldn't do anything about it. If Tang Yuyu insisted on being so cautious, then he couldn't say anything. Other than Wang Xinyan, everyone else was awake when they got back to the room, but it didn't affect Xinyan at all. They all knew that Xinyan had used up a lot of energy last night, and it was hard to say if she would wake up before noon. Lin Yi gave the breakfast to Yushu, Lingshan, and Xiaoka before placing the energy stones next to Xinyan. He watched them enjoy their breakfast, enjoying the moment of peace. Ever since he came to Songshan, Lin Yi's life seemed to be in a mess. Almost all kinds of things came to him, causing Lin Yi to work nonstop. Until now, Lin Yi still had to work hard for the inheritors plan. It was rare for him to have free time. However, this kind of leisure could only last for one morning. The professor rushed to Jiang Wen's room the next morning. "Professor Yin, how is it? Do you have a solution?" Jiang Wen was pleasantly surprised to see the professor. He'd been waiting for news from the professor for a long time. "Yes, it's like this, Master Wen. My master saw the recording of Lin Yi's fight with the cyborgs, and he gave a few suggestions. The professor said that Lin Yi's attacks are very strong, and our cyborgs are very strong, but they can't take a beating. It's fine when fighting against low-level masters, but if they fight against Lin Yi, they might be killed by Lin Yi before they can even kill Lin Yi. Even if they're Sky-class late phase, it's still not enough. Lin Yi can kill them one at a time, 6 hits at most, and they'll all be dead." That's... Jiang Wen thought about it and realized that it was true. The professor's words made him feel a little discouraged, but he had to admit that it was the truth. Then is there a way to solve it? Are we just going to let Lin Yi go like this? There's no way we'll let him go. My master also suggested that we kill Lin Yi, so his suggestion is to inject the number 1, 2, and 4 drugs into the cyborgs. The professor said, that way, our cyborgs will not only increase their strength, but they'll also be able to take a beating. As long as they don't lose their heads, they'll still be able to keep attacking even if they lose an arm or a leg. Oh, then it's settled. Jiang Wen nodded, overjoyed. Is there a problem? There's a problem. The side effect is that the effect only lasts for 20 minutes, so we have to do it in the car and hypnotize them in the car. We can't waste any time, the professor said. That's doable. Let Xiaochun and the hypnotist go together. Jiang Wen said. That's doable, but I'm afraid that things will be exposed, the professor said after some hesitation. Lin Yi won't send people out for Xiaochun and the others, will he? They pretended to be Lang Nima and Shui Mianshi to trick Lu Tianli. Sit in the car and don't get out. What's there to expose? Lin Yi doesn't have X-ray vision. Does he think he's Yangming? Jiang Wen waved his hand in disdain. Ugh, Master Wen, you know Yangming as well? The professor paused, not expecting Jiang Wen to know Yangming. This was the core secret of the Firewolves. Yes, isn't he our ultimate enemy? Miss Lan told me about it already, Jiang Wen said faintly. Miss Lan valued him a lot now, and he was starting to get in touch with the core secrets of the Firewolves. All right, Master Wen, I'll go make the arrangements. The professor nodded and went to prepare. At noon, a white van drove to the Hidden House Tang's antique shop. Jiang Wen didn't even change his car this time to attract Lin Yi's attention. He didn't even change his car. He was still using his old car to attract Lin Yi's attention. The driver was Little Pure. Before he left, he had already passed some instructions to the little crazy guy. This mission made him a little panicky. He had a feeling that they were going to fail, but he couldn't tell Jiang Wen about it. Jiang Wen would definitely scold him for worrying too much. So, in order to continue Scorpion's spirit, Xiaochun trained Little Crazy to be his successor. If something really happened to him today, then Little Crazy would take over his position and become the next Scorpion. Lin Yi had experienced this from a young age. Go, I know you're impatient. I'll help you explain things to Tang Yun. Old Lin said. All right. Lin Yi really wanted to go to the cave, even if he had to wait at the entrance. Everything was so familiar, and Lin Yi arrived in front of the cave once more. It wasn't night yet, but Lin Yi couldn't help but give it a try. The stone door didn't open, which was within Lin Yi's expectations. But Lin Yi wouldn't give up until he tested it. Since it was still early, Lin Yi calmed himself down and sat cross-legged at the entrance of the cave, practicing. Lin Yi waited for the night to fall. Slowly, the night came, and Lin Yi came out of the jade space, returning to reality. He raised his head and looked at the starry night sky. There was a full moon in the sky. Lin, he took a deep breath and stood up, walking towards the cave. Looking at the stone door in front of the cave, Lin, he slowly placed his hand on the stone door, and after a while, he let go. But this time, it wasn't like the first time Lin, he came to the stone door. At that time, Lin, he only placed his hand on the stone door, and the stone door opened by itself. But this time, the stone door didn't open. Lin, he was slightly startled. Was there something wrong with his calculation? Jiao Lao, what's going on? Why didn't the stone door open? Lin, he had a ready-made teacher, so Lin, he wasn't in a hurry. The first time the stone door opens, you can enter if you're fated to. The second time it opens, it has already recognized you as its owner. Try using the art of dragon mastery, Jiao Yazi said. Lin, he nodded and activated the art of dragon mastery, placing his hand on the stone door once more. This time, it didn't take long for the tightly shut stone door to rise slowly. Phew! Lin, he let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Jiao Yazi was right. The stone door really did open. This was the scene inside the door. It was the same as the first time Lin, he saw it, at the age of 8. But this time, Lin, he wasn't as surprised as before, and he didn't pay much attention to anything in the hall. He walked around the high platform and stood in front of the second stone door at the back of the hall. On the stone tablet in front of the stone door were the same words that Lin, he had seen before. 5 years later, when the divine ability is complete, you can enter by striking the door with your palm. If you don't get what you want and the divine ability isn't complete, wait another 5 years and come back to test it. Last time, Lin, he was confused and didn't know what these words meant. But this time, Lin, he understood that the divine ability on the stone tablet was referring to the art of dragon mastery. Now that his art of dragon mastery had reached the completion of the first layer, as long as he had the second layer, he could start cultivating. Lin, he remembered the words at the door. Remember to leave before dawn. The stone door will open again in 5 years. He didn't dare to waste any time. If he delayed, then Lin, he would be trapped in the stone door, unable to leave. Chapter 3393. Originally, Lin, he had only used the art of dragon mastery to open the stone door. Naturally, he couldn't use the art of dragon mastery to its fullest, but the moment his palm touched the stone door, Lin Yi's chi seemed to have been activated, and his art of dragon mastery was forcibly raised to the first stage. It was as if Lin, he didn't need to use the art of dragon mastery, and it was running on its own. The energy in Lin Yi's body flowed through his palm and into the stone door. This was a situation that Lin, he had never seen before. The only time he used the art of dragon mastery was when he was healing Xiao Xiao, but it was different this time. After all, the energy was transferred to a living person, and the energy was transferred to the stone door. However, when Lin, he opened the first stone door, he only used the art of dragon mastery once, and the stone door opened. This time, it had been running on its own for so long, and the stone door still didn't move. Instead, the energy in Lin Yi's body flowed into the stone door. Seeing that he was losing more and more energy, and Lin, he still couldn't stop it, Lin, he finally panicked. He wanted to ask Jiao Yazi what was going on. Jiao Lao, what's going on? Why is all the chi in my body flowing into the stone door? Lin, he asked anxiously. However, Jiao Lao's voice didn't ring. Instead, there was only silence. Jiao Lao. Lin, he tried to call Jiao Lao's name again, but there was still silence. Lin, he jumped and tried to enter the jade space. After all, he was losing too much energy. Lin, he wanted to enter the jade space to replenish his lost energy, but he realized that he had lost contact with the jade space. This was something that Lin, he had never seen before. It shocked Lin. At this moment, it was as if the jade space had closed, and Lin, he couldn't enter it like usual anymore. However, the energy in Lin Yi's body was still flowing at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, there was only 50% left, then 40%, 30%. Soon, there was only 10% left in Lin Yi's body, but the stone door in front of him didn't move at all. Could it be that he didn't have basic mastery? Or could it be that the stone tablet said basic mastery didn't mean that he had completed the first stage of the art of dragon mastery? As he was thinking, the last bit of energy in Lin Yi's body flowed into the stone door, but there was still no sign of the stone door opening. This made Lin Yi very depressed. He had waited for 10 years, and in exchange for such an inexplicable result. Not only did the stone door not open, there was no qi in his body at all, and the jade space was inexplicably ineffective. Wasn't this a scam? Could it be that the cave itself was a scam? First, let me cultivate, and then take back the qi in my body? Or was there another purpose? If it was any other time, the qi in Lin Yi's body would be gone, and Lin Yi wouldn't have any worries. With the jade space as a cheat, if he wanted to recover, it would only take a night. But now, Lin Yi's jade actually didn't work, and this made him want to cry, but have no tears. Just when Lin Yi wanted to let go of his hand and carefully check if the jade space could still be used, Lin Yi found that his hand seemed to be glued to the stone door, and he couldn't move it at all. Lin Yi subconsciously used his left palm to support the stone door and wanted to move his right palm, but unfortunately his left palm was also sucked to the stone door, and he couldn't move it anymore. However, just as Lin Yi was feeling sad and angry, he suddenly felt a strong qi flow from the stone door, through Lin Yi's palm, back into his body. And this energy seemed to be even purer than Lin Yi's previous all-purpose energy, as if it had been filtered. Of course, all this was not under Lin Yi's control. The energy flow back, just like before, was completely involuntary. Lin Yi could only endure it passively, and the art of dragon mastery in his body had been running at the great completion of the first stage at high speed. Finally, all the energy that had been lost before returned to Lin Yi's body, and Lin Yi's strength also returned to its previous state. But the difference was that the energy in Lin Yi's body was purer than before, and this was something that Lin Yi could clearly feel. Just as Lin Yi was excited about his strength returning, the energy in his body flowed again and continued to flow from Lin Yi's palm into the stone door. This time, although Lin Yi was surprised, he was not as afraid as before. Since he could not stop it, he would wait and see. Sure enough, after all the energy flowed into the stone door, the energy flow back appeared again. And this time, the energy that flowed into Lin Yi's body seemed to be even purer than before. However, Lin Yi was obviously happy too early. The situation this time was different from the previous time. The energy flowed from Lin Yi's left palm into Lin Yi's body, and from Lin Yi's right palm back into the stone door. At this moment, Lin Yi's entire body seemed to have entered a very mysterious state, as if he and the stone door had become one, and the stone door was a part of his body, and the qi was flowing back and forth. So, Lin Yi simply closed his eyes, no longer resisting, and accompanied the stone door, circulating the art of dragon mastery, wanting to see what this stone door was going to do. The energy in the stone door and Lin Yi's body did not know how many times, until Lin Yi was tired of counting. Only then did Lin Yi suddenly realize that this time, the speed at which the qi was drained from his right palm was slowly slowing down, obviously slower than the absorption of the left palm. Gradually, the absorption rate of the left palm also slowed down. This was not surprising to Lin Yi. As the loss of the qi was slower, the absorption would naturally be slower, but he did not know whether this situation represented a good or bad thing. Immediately after that, Lin Yi could clearly feel the loss and absorption of the energy become slower and slower, until finally it stopped. And the moment it stopped, the stone door also let out a loud boom, and Lin Yi instinctively bounced to the side. Accompanied by the sound of the stone door, the second stone door, like the stone door at the entrance, slowly rose up. The corner of Lin Yi's mouth couldn't help but show a trace of a smile. Chapter 3394. Yes, Lin Yi was touched. Although old Lin was sometimes unreliable, he cared about Lin Yi a lot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed up in the middle of the night to wait for Lin Yi's return. You found something? Old Lin's face showed a trace of a smile, and his tense heart also relaxed. It's all here. Lin Yi waved the wooden box in his hand, and his heart was filled with emotions. While Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised, he was also a little disappointed. 10 years of anticipation in exchange for a small square box. This was the only thing in the entire stone room, but it was incomparably precious. It must contain the mantra for the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. Hee, I should also go rest. Old Lin stood up with a yawn and staggered towards his room. Looking at Old Lin's back as he left, Lin secretly sighed. Old Lin sometimes deliberately made things difficult for him, but he was also sincerely concerned about Lin Yi. He just didn't show it. In this aspect, he was somewhat similar to the Miss, but Old Lin and the Miss had completely different personalities. Thinking of this, a strong sense of kinship surged in Lin Yi's heart. All this while, Lin Yi had called Old Man Lin Old Man, and it didn't seem like he was being respectful. But in Lin Yi's heart, he had always treated Old Man Lin as his master and grandfather. He seemed to be indifferent to Lin Yi, but he was very thoughtful about many things. After waiting for Old Lin to enter his own room, Lin Yi then moved back to his room. Placing the small wooden box on the table, Lin Yi took a deep breath. Before this, Lin Yi was already a little impatient. Now that he was home, it was unexpectedly calm. "Little Lin, are you very happy and excited?" Jiao Lao's voice slowly sounded in Lin Yi's ear. "Jiao Lao, don't make fun of me. Of course, I'm very happy and excited." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "This has been my dream for 10 years, and it has finally come true." "Haha, what are your thoughts?" Jiao Lao asked jokingly. "Speaking of feelings, it's actually a little different from what I expected." Lin Yi said honestly, "I originally thought that there would be more benefits behind the second stone door. I didn't expect that what I got in the end was still a small box. If it weren't for the fact that time was of the essence, I really wouldn't have given up. I really want to turn that stone room upside down." "Humph. Fortunately, I reminded you. Otherwise, when the stone door closes, you might not be able to see the light of day again." Jiao Lao was somewhat disdainful of Lin Yi's greed. "Moreover, it's obvious what's in that stone room. According to my memory, there's only this small box in the second stone door." "That's good." Lin immediately heaved a sigh of relief. "I hope that I can cultivate the second layer of the heart cultivation method to the full circle as soon as possible so that I can open the third stone door. Now, I'm full of anticipation for the third stone door." That's not right. Since the third stone door can be opened at any time, doesn't that mean that the 5-year promise is invalid? Even if the stone door closes, won't I be able to leave at any time? It's easy for you to think about it. What's the condition to open the third stone door?" Jiao Lao asked in return. "The second layer of the full circle." Lin Yi was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. "In other words, I can only open the stone door when I'm at the second layer of the full circle?" "Naturally, it's written clearly on the stone tablet," Jiao Lao said. "Doesn't it mean that the first stone door also has the effect of testing one's strength?" Lin Yi asked in surprise. "What do you think?" Jiao Lao blinked his eyes and asked in return. In fact, he didn't know who designed these intricate mechanisms and how they were designed. His memory hadn't recovered yet, and it was only a virtual image. He couldn't answer for things that exceeded the scope of the second layer of his memory. "I think so. In other words, if I'm locked in the stone door, I can only cultivate the second layer of the heart cultivation method to the full circle before I can leave?" Lin Yi asked. "That's impossible. If you're trapped inside, you'll probably have to wait for 5 years." Jiao Yazi denied flatly. "Oh, why is that so?" Lin Yi was slightly stunned and then asked. Wait until you see the heart cultivation method in the wooden box. You'll understand." Jiao Yazi laughed. Since Jiao Yazi kept him in suspense, Lin Yi didn't ask anymore. It seemed like he could find the answer in the wooden box. Lin Yi slowly opened the small wooden box. This time, he didn't encounter any obstacles. Thinking about it, after passing the test of the stone door, the person who built the cave had achieved his goal and tested out Lin Yi's strength. Therefore, he wouldn't put any obstacles on the small wooden box. The wooden box was opened, but there wasn't the heaven-defying artifact that Lin Yi had imagined. Originally, Lin Yi was still hoping to find something similar to a jade pendant in the small box, but there was nothing inside. In the wooden box, there were 3 neatly folded silk scrolls. This made Lin Yi's eyes light up. Previously, in the first wooden box, there was only 1 silk scroll, but in the wooden box in the second stone door, there were 3 silk scrolls. Could it be that this was the heart cultivation method from the 2nd to the 4th level of the Art of Dragon Mastery? If there was the heart cultivation method for the last 3 levels, then Lin Yi was simply too happy. This time, he had really made a big profit. After calming down his excitement, Lin Yi picked up the first silk scroll and opened it carefully, for fear of damaging the silk scroll. The Art of Dragon Mastery, the 5 words written in seal script, leaped into Lin Yi's eyes. The same words Lin Yi had seen on the silk scroll of the first level of the Art of Dragon Mastery. Seeing it again after 10 years made Lin Yi's blood boil and excited. The previous silk scroll had been treasured by Lin Yi. Lin Yi had read the heart cultivation method mnemonic incantation thousands of times and had already memorized it. Therefore, seeing this kind of heart cultivation method mnemonic incantation again, Lin Yi naturally felt this way. Under the title of this heart cultivation method, there was a small line of words written on it, 2nd level, White Crane. However, what was different from the first level of the heart cultivation method was that behind the small title was not the main text, but a line of annotations. This line of annotations was very eye-catching. The font was even bigger than the small title. Lin Yi didn't dare to neglect it and hurriedly read it carefully. Chapter 3395. Lin Yi also felt that it was too much of a coincidence that old Lin's move had sent him to the bottom of West Star Mountain and to the front of the cave. Moreover, when he first came back and showed the jade pendant in the box to old Lin showed a very surprised expression. When he showed the small box to old Lin, he didn't seem that surprised, as if he already knew about it. But when he saw the jade pendant, he was very surprised. At that time, Lin Yi couldn't guess the meaning behind his expression, but now, when he thought about it again, he could more or less guess it. The only possibility was that old Lin already knew about the cave, and knew that there was a small box in the cave, and that the box contained the Art of Dragon Mastery. Otherwise, old Lin wouldn't have concocted the body tempering medicine for him before this. But the existence of the jade pendant seemed to be out of old Lin's expectations. Come to think of it, old Lin should know about the jade pendant, but he was surprised that it was in the box too. This meant that the jade pendant should be a very important treasure. But old Lin didn't say anything, and Lin Yi knew that it was useless to ask. But if old Lin wanted to say it, just like now, he directly said it. "I know," old Lin said. "That old friend of mine told me about this." "The fortune teller?" Lin Yi asked. "Yes, that's him." Old Lin nodded. "Can you be more specific?" Lin Yi frowned. "I feel that there are many things I don't know, including the sudden departure of Master. You must know about it." "No, I will tell you when it's time." Old Lin's expression was normal, but his words were resolute. "All right, then let's continue researching the prescription." Lin Yi knew old Lin's personality, and so he didn't say anything more. He directly passed the recipe to old Lin, saying, "You can get most of the common ingredients in here. You have a lot of them in your herb garden." In the Valley West, old Lin had his own herb garden, and there were many precious herbs planted there. Most of the herbs on this prescription could be found, but there were a few that Lin Yi hadn't even heard of. Grain grass? Resting fruit? Horsetail bamboo? Old Lin muttered to himself. Then, he shook his head and said, "I've never heard of it either. Let's look it up in the medicine encyclopedia. Maybe it's in one of the ancient books. You still want to investigate?" Lin Yi couldn't help but feel bitter after hearing this. Xiao Xiao's fire spirit fruit was already a lot of effort, and he only found a little bit of information. Now that he had lost 3 ingredients, how long would it take? It shouldn't be too hard to find. I don't think it's a heaven-defying treasure like the fire spirit's fruit. It's just rare. Maybe there are other names for it. Let's look around. Old Lin stood up and walked toward the study. Lin Yi, on the other hand, could only follow old Lin into the study. There were many books in old Lin's library, but there were scanned copies in Lin Yi's computer. Lin Yi browsed through the books on the computer while old Lin browsed through the bookshelves. Old Lin wasn't used to using a computer, but the two of them didn't have any conflicts. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Old Man Lin was right about these 3 herbs. They were all extremely rare herbs. Striped grass and horsetail bamboo had other common names, and they were all grown in Old Man Lin's herb garden. As for the resting fruit, it was nowhere to be found. Old Lin could only ask a few suppliers, but there were no results. Lin, he had Fatty Lai look for it as well, but even with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's channels, there was no news of the resting fruit. It seemed like this ingredient was quite rare. Can we not put this ingredient in? Lin, he asked with a frown, but shook his head after asking. I don't think so. The resting fruit is part of the recipe. It's used to suppress the fire and focus the mind. It's a must. With Lin Yi's medical skills, naturally he could understand the effects of the ingredients in the recipe. Even if he couldn't write the recipe, he could at least look at it and understand it. Why are you still asking when you already know? Old Lin shrugged and said, There's nothing I can do. I couldn't find a common name of the resting fruit in the information. I only found some introductions to its medicinal properties and pharmacology. This means that this thing definitely exists, but I don't know where it grows. Yeah, there are many ingredients for calming the fire and calming the spirit. The resting fruit isn't a necessary ingredient. If it was a rare ingredient, it would have been replaced by other ingredients a long time ago. Right, replaced. Lin Yi's eyes lit up as he said that. He slapped his thigh and exclaimed, It can be replaced. Why didn't I think of that earlier? Well, if we're talking about replacing, there are some ingredients with similar properties and pharmacology. Old Man Lin nodded and said, I'll look into the effects of the fruit of peace and find a herb that's similar to it. Don't bother. I only know one. Lin, he shook his head. It seemed like he and Old Lin had walked into a dead end. Changing recipes was his forte. The golden creation recipe and the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing recipe were all modified by Lin Yi, and there were no problems with the effects. Lin Yi was very confident in this. In the next few days, Old Lin and Lin Yi started making the body strengthening medicine. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu knew that Lin Yi was preparing for the next step of his training, so naturally, they wouldn't disturb him. Plus, they hadn't had enough fun yet. Gooden brought them around the forest every day, and they had a lot of fun. After everything was prepared, Lin Yi prepared the body strengthening medicine for both internal and external use. Then, he started his solitary meditation. With Old Lin guarding him, it was the safest place for Lin Yi. Old Lin's attack power wasn't any weaker than Gooden's. Gooden was a bit stronger, but Old Lin was enough to deal with normal enemies. Plus, Old Lin had a clear advantage over Gooden, and that was the body of someone who had mastered the Golden Shield. Normal people wouldn't be able to do anything to Old Lin. But Old Lin and Gooden were the same. Because of a spring, they couldn't leave Star West Village. Chapter 3396. Thinking about this, Tang Yin understood why the Snow Valley had mobilized so many people. But she also thought of something else. That was Lin Yi's love had moved Elder Qing and Rock Candy. Then, would she be able to move Valley Master Shui and Grand Elder as well? Thinking about this, Tang Yin slowly knelt in front of Grand Elder and Valley Master Shui. Her expression was extremely sincere. I beg you, please save my lover. If he doesn't receive treatment in time, I'm afraid. The highest elder didn't look back. The aura she exuded had a kind of unapproachable momentum. Shueli followed behind her and left the guest room together. What the great elder and Shueli had cultivated was the heartless spell, a unique skill of the Snow Valley. What they cultivated was an icy heart. How could they be moved by Tang Yun's kneeling? However, the heartless spell was only suitable for females to practice. Although Elder Zhang also practiced the ice elemental spell, he did not need to practice the ice heart. So, he couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw Shueli and the great elder leaving. He said to Tang Yun, "Little girl, let's go. Don't annoy the Valley Master and the great elder." Tang Yun's tears fell down helplessly. At this moment, her heart was filled with grievance and bitterness. Although Tang Yun was born poor, she had her own persistence and pride. When had she ever kneeled to others? But for Lin Yi, she had to lower her head. Little girl, don't make things difficult for me. If you stay here and the Valley Master and Grand Elder blame me, I will have to bear the consequences. Elder Zhang said. I'm sorry. Tang Yin wiped away her tears and stood up slowly, determination in her red eyes. Elder Zhang, please tell the venerated elder and the valley headmaster that I'll kneel in front of the valley's gates. I'd rather freeze to death on this snowy mountain if I don't get the ice spirit fruit. Why do you have to do this? Elder Zhang smiled bitterly and did not know what to say. He knew that the Supreme Elder and Shueli would definitely watch Tang Yun freeze to death. For those who practiced the heartless tactics, how could they sympathize with others? Tang Yun bowed deeply to the Grand Elder and didn't say anything else. She left the room and walked out of the snowy valley's walls. Yin, why you're doing this? Meng Yao was a little shocked, not expecting Tang Yun to say something this shameless. But remembering that Lin Yi did the same thing when he saved Xiao Xiao, Meng Yao knew that Tang Yun was learning from Lin Yi. I've decided this is our last chance. We don't have time to go to the Ice Palace anymore. Tang Yun said firmly. Among these people, only Lin Yi had the Ice Palace's contact information. Even Tang Yun's parents didn't have Bing Tong's contact information, let alone old Lin and Mo Kongwen. Mo Kongwen knew the route to the Snow Valley because the Snow Valley was famous for trading and exchanging treasures for money. But it's very cold here. You're different from Lin Yi. He's a practitioner, and you're not. You'll freeze to death here. Meng Yao said subconsciously, a little startled. I said it, so I'll do it. Tang Yun said firmly as she looked at the unconscious Lin. I've known him for so long, but I've never done anything for him, man. Meng Yao sighed helplessly. It was freezing outside of Snow Valley, and it was beyond their imaginations. Snow Valley and the Ice Palace were in the north and south. According to Snow Valley's location, the weather should be nice, but who would have thought that it would be the exact opposite in this valley? It's so cold. She couldn't take this weather even with Lin Yi on her back. She felt relaxed when she came out of the room, but after a while, she couldn't take it anymore. Shu had a body that could withstand heat, but not cold. Carrying Lin Yi on her back was very comfortable, but staying in this environment for a long time would definitely freeze her to death. Yao, Shu, you guys go back to the car. I'll be fine outside. Tang Yun said as she knelt in front of the gate of the Snow Valley. Although this was the territory of the Snow Valley wouldn't do anything to an ordinary person like her. Elder Zhang looked at the scene outside and shook his head helplessly. He didn't think that Tang Yun would really do this, but he was confused. Since Tang Yun was Bing Tong's sister, why didn't she contact Bing Tang and transfer the money for the fruit to him? Of course, Elder Zhang didn't know that it wasn't that Tang Yun didn't want to, but that she couldn't contact Bing Tang. The ancient sects had their own ways of contacting each other, but ancient sects communicated with the common world through letters. Meng Yao didn't know how to persuade Tang Yun, and she didn't know if she should do it or not. She was thinking if she was in Tang Yun's shoes, would she do the same? When Meng Yao heard Tang Yun say, I've known him for so long, but I've never done anything for him, she was thinking, what have I done for him? Every time she was in trouble or danger, it was Lin Yi who helped her out. No matter how dangerous or difficult it was, he would always be safe. But what have I done for him? Thinking about it carefully, it seemed like nothing. Why don't we take turns kneeling here? Meng Yao hesitated. No need, that would be insincere. Tang Yun said, Yao, it's fine. My body is more resistant to cold, but you and Shu are different. Leave it to me. You guys just stay in the car and take care of Lin Yi. Actually, Tang Yun was thinking, if Snow Valley knew that she was Bing Tong's sister, would they still let her freeze to death here? If that happened, how would she explain it to Bing Tang? Of course, this was also because Tang Yun didn't know that Grand Elder and Sydney practiced the heartless arts. If they knew, they wouldn't think like this. The so-called heartless arts naturally wouldn't be moved by Tang Yun's actions. As for her identity as Bing Tong's sister, Grand Elder and Sydney didn't really believe it. After all, Bing Tang didn't tell them about it, nor did she mention it. What else could Meng Yao say after Tang Yin said so? She could only go back to the car with Shu. After all, it was too cold outside. Meng Yao was shivering from the cold. She couldn't imagine how Tang Yun's thin body could withstand the cold wind and snow. Chapter 3397. Have we done anything wrong to you? You'll understand after you hear what I have to say. Jiang Wen said. Meng Yao turned around and walked towards the living room. Yushu was looking at Jiang Wen up and down weirdly, giving Jiang Wen a creepy feeling. Was this girl trying to trick him again? Jiang Wen had been tricked many times already. Actually, Yushu wasn't trying to trick him. She was just guessing if this guy was really innocent or not. All right, what do you want to say? Meng Yao said to Jiang Wen. Yao Yao, maybe you think that Uncle Chu went bankrupt and committed suicide because of our family. But how can we be innocent? My father was even scolded by Grandpa for lending Uncle Chu money. Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. If it wasn't for Grandpa's love for me, this villa of yours would have been confiscated. The assets are all under your name. What else do you want? Meng Yao asked. Uncle Chu's assets and Pengzhan Corporation shares are indeed in our family's hands. But Yao Yao, have you ever thought about the $3 billion that my father lent to your father? Do you think that the total value of Pengzhan Corporation's shares and these properties is around $3 billion? Even if it's more than $3 billion, we're using cash to buy back the assets and shares. This is a huge loss, Jiang Wen explained. After all, the assets aren't money, they're shares. The business won't recover even if it's not managed. But now that we don't have the $3 billion, even the operations of our business are affected. Overall, we're the victims. You're saying that the $3 billion you lent to my father was lost as well? Didn't it go into your pockets? Meng Yao naturally didn't believe Jiang Wen. Yao Yao, to be honest, it was my father who dragged Uncle Chu into this project. Maybe that's why you misunderstood, Jiang Wen said. But later on, my father kept telling Uncle Chu to stop, but Uncle Chu acted like he was possessed. He wouldn't listen no matter what my father said. My father couldn't reject him because he was an old friend, so he took the risk and lent him the money. Dad's in the hospital, unconscious. How am I supposed to believe you? Meng Yao wasn't moved at all. Man, I knew you wouldn't believe me. Jiang Wen shook his head helplessly. But it's fine, Yao Yao. Our company's phones all have voice recordings. If you really don't believe me, I'll get someone to pull out the voice recording and listen to it yourself. There's a recording? Really? Meng Yao wasn't so sure anymore after hearing Jiang Wen's words. Could it be that her father really wasn't going to listen to her? Her father seemed to be crazy when she called him, and he didn't seem to care when Faubert tried to talk him out of it. Our family's company is different from your father's. There are 3 people in charge, my grandpa, my uncle, and my father. So sometimes when something goes wrong, we have to look into the person responsible. Who was the one who made the decision? In order to prevent people from denying it, there's no evidence. Jiang Wen was obviously bullshitting. In Haosen's business, other than Old Elder and in Mingyue, Jiang Wen even had a lot of power. What's the point? Jiang Wen was obviously bullshitting. Then, can you get it for me? Meng Yao hesitated. It wasn't polite to ask for someone else's company's voice recording, but she didn't believe that Jiang Wen really had a voice recording. She had to confirm it herself. All right, I'll tell my father now. Jiang Wen didn't push it away. He took out his phone and called in Mingyue after Mingyue's call. Meng Yao wasn't sure herself anymore. Could it be that Haosen was innocent? Otherwise, why would Jiang Wen be so confident? Of course, as suspicious as Haosen was, there was still the possibility that they were innocent. Then why did they lose all their money after making money? Meng Yao asked. Man, it wasn't supposed to be a loss, but I don't know why Uncle Chu pulled out $1 billion all of a sudden, disrupting the entire operation. Not only did we not get the $1 billion back, but we lost everything. Jiang Wen said regretfully with a shrug. What? Is it because of the withdrawal of investment? That's why you lost it? Meng Yao froze. She didn't think that the reason for her father's bankruptcy was because of him pulling out his investment. Although Jiang Wen's words couldn't be trusted, Meng Yao still blamed herself. Was it because of her If she didn't call her father to ask for 1 billion, would her father pull out his investment? Was he the one who caused all of this? Faubert didn't want Meng Yao to be sad, so he didn't mention this. Faubert was sure that it was Hao Sin's doing and that the investment loss was just an excuse. But Jiang Wen wanted Meng Yao to hate Lin Yi, so he said it on purpose. Yeah, it's a taboo for a financial speculator like this to pull out his investment. It messes up the original plan. Is that so? Meng Yao lowered her head, feeling down. Jiang Wen was a little disappointed that Meng Yao didn't blame him, but he couldn't say anything more. Meng Yao would get suspicious if he did, and Meng Yao wasn't an idiot. Jiang Wen had spent so much effort to make Meng Yao half believe him, and naturally, he wouldn't ruin the good situation. Soon, Jiang Wen's phone received a couple of messages. He opened it up and said to Meng Yao, "They're here. I'll play it for you." "Okay." Meng Yao nodded without hesitation. "Pengzhan bro, why are you calling again? Didn't we just talk? I've sent the current profits to your inbox. See if you've received it." Jiang Wen's phone started to play the recording of the phone call slowly. In the beginning, it was just a normal conversation, but Meng Yao's face started to change as the conversation went on. Chapter 3398. The fourth reagent had been injected, and now Xiaochun had to inject them with the first and second reagents. In order to attract Lin Yi's attention, Xiaochun purposely drove around House Tang's hotel and said to the hypnotist, "We can start now." Xiaochun had practiced this action many times before coming here. Xiaochun skillfully injected the potion into the 3 bio-humans in front of her, and then the hypnotist began to hypnotize them. Meanwhile, Xiaochun drove to the antique shop. The timing was just right. In fact, when Xiaochun drove around the hotel, Lin Yi noticed it. This made Lin Yi a little puzzled. What was he trying to do? Provoke him? Could it be that Jiang Wen knew that he was staying in the hotel and purposely told him that he was going to rob the hotel? Or was he thinking too much? Was he just here to take a look and wanted to rob the hotel after robbing the antique shop? Of course, the second possibility was more likely. But no matter what, Lin Yi rushed to the antique shop with House Tang as soon as possible. Tang Taizhong admired Yushu very much. She said that she was going to rob the antique shop today, and she really came. When the van arrived at the antique shop, they saw that Lin Yi was already waiting for them at the entrance. There were no other customers around, and evidently, the place had been cleared by House Tang to prevent people who didn't know the truth from causing a commotion. Xiaochun stopped the van, and he didn't know why, but his heart was beating very fast. His goal was to bring people to fight Lin Yi, but now that Lin Yi was waiting for him, he couldn't feel happy at all. He felt that something bad was going to happen. "Hypnotist, how is it? Is it done?" Xiaochun asked. "No problem. I ordered them to get out of the van and carry out the mission." The hypnotist nodded and then gave the order to the 5 bio-humans. The 3 bio-humans got out of the van one by one, and they surrounded Lin Yi. This time, their order was to surround and attack Lin Yi. No matter who interfered, they would ignore them and focus solely on attacking Lin Yi. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He also felt that something was amiss. There was someone else in the van at the moment. Did this person not know that he was the one who killed the bio-human yesterday? Why did he bring 3 of them today? Did he really think that these 3 bio-humans were a match for him? All 6 of them died yesterday. You think you're amazing just because you've lost half of it? There seemed to be something strange about this. Since he couldn't figure it out, Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. He adopted yesterday's strategy and defeated them one by one. Flaming Fist 10th move. Lin Yi attacked Cyborg 1, who was the closest to him. Boom! The fist landed on the cyborg's body. Not to be outdone, the cyborg also attacked. He also threw a punch at Lin Yi's fist. It was a head-on attack. This wasn't what Lin Yi had imagined. The cyborg's fist made Lin Yi's blood boil in his chest. It was a huge amount of strength. The huge force pushed Lin Yi back, and he fell to the ground. Blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. Heaven late stage. This cyborg actually had the offensive power of a heaven late stage expert. It looked like a normal punch, but it contained such explosive power. Lin Yi didn't expect it at all, and he was hit by it, suffering a serious internal injury in an instant. However, this wasn't the end of it. After the cyborg exchanged blows with Lin Yi, he was sent flying. He was sent flying as well, spitting out a mouthful of blood. It looked even more serious than Lin Yi's, but he was able to get up quickly. There was a dent in his chest, but it didn't seem to affect him at all. Even his speed didn't decrease as he ran towards Lin Yi again. Lin Yi was shocked. This was indeed unusual. The 5 cyborgs today were completely different from yesterday's. Not only did they have high attack power, but their resistance was also stronger. Lin Yi's Flaming Fist 10th move actually didn't do anything to the cyborg in front of him. Lin Yi originally wanted to use the art of Dragon Mastery to heal the injuries in his body, but he didn't have the chance. Before the cyborg could run over, the other 2 cyborgs had already reached Lin Yi. One on the left and one on the right. They suddenly punched at Lin Yi. Lin Yi was shocked. He quickly used the butterfly subtle steps to dodge the attacks of the 2 cyborgs. After all, the intelligence of these 2 cyborgs didn't seem to be very high. Their mobility was also restricted, and they weren't very agile. That was why Lin Yi was able to quickly get up from the ground and dodge the attacks. However, there was a saying that was true. One couldn't dodge the first attack, but one couldn't dodge the next. Lin Yi had just dodged the attacks of the cyborgs when the first cyborg had already arrived behind Lin Yi. He suddenly punched at Lin Yi and directly smashed Lin Yi. Fortunately, the Jade Pendant had already given a strong warning at this moment, so the cyborg sneak attack didn't reach its maximum effect. Lin Yi had already used his vital energy to protect his body. Although his previous injuries had worsened, at least it wasn't worse. Go to hell. Lin Yi turned around and smashed the 11th move of the Flaming 8 Trigrams Palm. Initially, Lin Yi didn't want to use this move. However, the cyborgs in front of him were too strong. So, Lin Yi had no choice but to use his strongest move. Boom! Cyborg 1 and Lin Yi exchanged blows. Because Lin Yi had attacked with all his strength, he didn't reserve too much of his vital energy to protect his body. Therefore, the damage to Lin Yi was quite great. As the cyborgs flew backward, Lin Yi also flew backward under the impact of the huge recoil and crashed to the ground. This time, under the great power of the 11th move of the Flaming 8 Trigrams Palm, Cyborg 1 was smashed into pieces. His entire body was turned into pieces, and it was impossible for him to survive. However, Lin Yi's physical strength had been severely depleted, and he had also suffered very serious internal injuries. However, Lin Yi knew that he couldn't afford to be careless. There were still 2 cyborgs attacking him from behind. In the van, the hypnotist stared coldly at the scene outside the van and said calmly, "It seems that this Lin Yi still has some tricks up his sleeve. However, he is now at the end of his rope." "That's true. I hope that these 2 cyborgs can kill Lin Yi." Xiao Chun nodded, but she still didn't feel at ease. Lin Yi used the killer's ultimate skill, butterfly micro-steps, and avoided the attacks of the 2 cyborgs. However, Lin Yi knew that this was not a solution at all. If he continued to dodge like this, he would make a mistake sooner or later. Chapter 3399. He didn't expect these 3 bio-humans to be so strong. It seemed that Jiang Wen knew that he would fight here, so he purposely sent so many masters. However, with Lin Yi's current condition, he couldn't use the 11th form of the Fire 8 Trigrams Palm again. He could only keep dodging. This way, even if Lin Yi continued to fight, he wouldn't be able to defeat these 2. Lin Yi was very anxious. His stamina was also decreasing by the minute. Right now, he was like a bow with a crossbow. Lin Yi's steps were getting slower and slower, and his movements were getting more and more strenuous. Right now, Lin Yi was severely exhausted, and he was also injured. If it wasn't for his determination, he might have died. Lin Yi is only SOSO. 3 bio-humans already made him so miserable. If the ones from yesterday came together, Lin Yi would probably be dead already. The hypnotist smiled coldly at Lin. You dare to go against our master one with just this level of skill? You really don't know what's good for you. I hope, Lin, you won't survive today. Xiaochu nodded, relaxing a little. Right now, Lin Yi was obviously at a disadvantage. From his point of view, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to escape. Watch out! Lin Yi dodged Biohuman 2's attack, but Biohuman 3's attack followed. It seemed that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to dodge it, so Lingshan immediately warned him. She subconsciously wanted to rush up and help, attacking Biohuman 3 with all her might. However, when her fists landed on Biohuman 3, it didn't seem to feel anything at all. It was as if it was completely useless, and Biohuman 3 continued to attack Lin Yi. Everyone help! Lingshan said urgently. Tang Taijung, eldest Tang, second Tang, and Tang Yui heard her, and all went up to help attack Biohuman 3. Tang Taijung also knew that if anything happened to Lin Yi, then the Hidden House Tang would be finished with him. However, these people were not strong. Even if they attacked Biohuman 3, they would not be able to defeat him. It wasn't able to deal too much damage to Cyborg 3 either. Cyborg 3's movement was only slightly slowed down, allowing Lin Yi to dodge the attack. However, just as Lin Yi dodged Biohuman 3's attack, Biohuman 2's attack came again, causing Lin Yi to groan inwardly. One Bio 3 was already something Lingshan and the others couldn't handle. Cyborg 2 was coming again, and she couldn't deal with it. At this critical moment, she couldn't react at all. Nuwa Sky, Mending Art. Just as Bionic 2's attack was about to reach Lin Yi, Xiaoka yelled and used her defensive arts. In fact, Xiaoka had been preparing for this, and now that she saw that Lin Yi was exhausted, she quickly used her ultimate move. However, they weren't weak, and their attacks were equivalent to Sky-class late phase. Xiaoka was only at the early phase of Sky-class, and even if she could defend against a Sky-class late phase's attack, she wouldn't be able to withstand it. It was also impossible to defend for too long. Boom! Biohuman 2's attack didn't land on Lin Yi. Instead, it seemed to have landed on a protective barrier. Lin Yi, at this moment, was completely free. He even fell to the ground. His physical strength had been exhausted. He had to restore his physical strength and true chi as soon as possible and heal the injuries in his body. He knew that Yu Xiaoka wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer, so he activated the art of Dragon Mastery. He began to heal his injuries and recover his physical strength. Lingshan knew Xiaoka's defensive skills, and she let out a breath of relief, allowing the two to continue attacking Lin Yi. Old Tang Taijung was a Sky class as well, but he was a Sky class who'd gotten to that level through elixirs. There was a lot of water in it, so its attack power was very weak. When it hit Biohuman 3, it could not even cause him serious injuries. It could only cause some minor injuries, which made him very depressed. He couldn't do anything to help Lin Yi right now, so he could only watch helplessly as the two biohumans attacked Lin Yi. Xiaoka didn't feel much at first, but after a minute, a thin layer of sweat appeared on her forehead. She felt as if her physical strength was being devoured by a black hole, gushing out of her body like a tide. At this moment, she understood how difficult it was for her to defend against these two with her current strength. Their attacks were simply consuming too much of her physical strength. But no matter what, Xiaoka had to hold on and create a chance for Lin Yi to recover his physical strength. Otherwise, Lin Yi would be in danger right now. Lingshan and the others were panicking as they looked at Xiaoka, but they couldn't do anything to help. They couldn't beat the biohumans, so they could only watch. Xiaoka sis, you have to hold on. Yushu had a lot of tricks up her sleeve, but she didn't know what to do now. But I think that we'll be able to survive this. And Xiaoka replied in a barely audible voice. She was simply too weak, and she was holding on with her faith. Lin Yi was panicking as well, but there was nothing he could do. His injuries were too severe, and using the 11th form of the Fire 8 Trigrams Palm had used up a lot of his physical strength as well. He also had to dodge for a while, and now he was almost out of energy. He could only hope that Xiaoka could hold on for a little longer. Time passed second by second, and sweat soaked Xiaoka's collar. Her face was pale, and her body was trembling. It had only been 2 minutes. But then again, with Xiaoka's strength, it was already a miracle that she could defend against the attacks of 2 Sky-class late-phase masters at the same time. She had to hold on. She had to hold on. Xiaoka kept reminding herself, but her stamina was getting weaker and weaker, and she couldn't do what she wanted. She had no choice but to burn her own life force in exchange for a moment of safety. Xiaoka's faith was strong. Before, it was for the orphanage, and now it was for Lin Yi. She would rather die than hold on. The people and things in front of her were getting blurry. Xiaoka gritted her teeth and started chanting the arts mechanically. At this moment, she felt that her body was getting lighter. She didn't need to use all her strength, but she could still chant the arts. Her thoughts suddenly went back to that dark tomb, but the things that happened in there were so beautiful and sunny in her memories. The confession outside the tomb would forever be imprinted in her heart, frozen in that moment. Chapter 3400. When Xiaoka fell to the ground, the practitioner's chant was still going on, and the 2 biohumans didn't hit Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't think that the battle he was supposed to win would end up like this. He wanted to stand up and rush over to check on Xiaoka, but if he got hit by the biohumans, he'd be wasting Xiaoka's good intentions. Lin Yi also knew that Xiaoka's defense was over. He stood up and dodged the attacks from biohuman 2 and 3, looking at Xiaoka from the corner of his eyes. At this moment, Xiaoka was already on the ground, unmoving. Lingshan and the others were all surrounding Xiaoka. Lin Yi wanted to see what was going on, but he couldn't do anything else. He could only keep dodging the biohumans' attacks. Although he had recovered some of his injuries and recovered some of his chi, Xiaoka had only given him 2 minutes. It was impossible for him to recover much chi in such a short period of time. So Lin Yi couldn't use the 11th form of the Fire 8 trigrams palm. He could only continue dodging. What move did that girl use just now? How could she block the biohuman's attacks? Xiaoka's chant had stunned both Xiaochun and the hypnotist. They had never seen anything like this before. Xiaoka fainted, and Lin Yi continued to dodge. Only then did Xiaochun come back to his senses. I don't know. We don't know much about martial arts, but who cares? Now that the girl has fainted, let's see how Lin Yi handles this. The hypnotist didn't really care about Xiaoka's situation, but the biohumans only have 5 minutes left. Xiaochun's face was bitter. Lin Yi had lasted for more than 10 minutes, and Xiaoka had lasted for another 2 minutes. So the biohumans only had 5 minutes left. In other words, if they couldn't kill Lin Yi in 5 minutes, the 2 biohumans would die. Motherfucker. The hypnotist was stunned for a moment before realizing the problem of time. He frowned and said, "Little Pure, calculate the time. If they can't kill Lin Yi, we'll drive away immediately." "I understand." Little Chunjin nodded, but he no longer had any hope for the biohuman. He was ready to drive away. Lin Yi could not use the 11th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm. Lin Yi had no choice but to dodge. The inescapable net was gone. Otherwise, he could have used it to escape. However, Lin Yi didn't have any weapons in his hands. Although he was wearing the gale-chasing lightning boots, it was not a problem for him to escape. But what about the others? He couldn't just ignore it, right? He didn't know if Jiang Wen had any backup plans. What if he left and Jiang Wen attacked Lingshan and the Hidden House Tang? So, Lin Yi could only think of a way to break through while dodging. However, Lin Yi really couldn't think of a way to solve this seemingly unsolvable situation. However, Lin Yi had been dealing with the 2 biohumans for a while now. However, he noticed a strange phenomenon. The speed and attack power of the 2 biohumans were decreasing. In terms of speed, Lin Yi could easily feel it. After all, at the beginning, Lin Yi had just dodged their first round of attack, and the next round of attack followed. But now, after dodging, Lin Yi still had a chance to breathe. The 2 of them were no longer as agile as they used to be. As for the strength, although Lin Yi didn't receive a direct attack, Lin Yi could still feel the strength of the punch from the side. From the momentum, he could tell that these people's fists had the strength of a Sky-class late-stage master. They had already shrunk to Sky class mid-stage. This discovery surprised Lin E. Could it be that the energy of the biohumans was exhausted? Thinking of this, Lin E continued to fight. As expected, what happened next confirmed Lin Yi's guess. The two people's speed was getting slower and slower, and their strength was getting weaker and weaker. Finally, at the 19-minute mark, the two people's movements became uncoordinated, and the strength of their attacks also decreased to Sky class early stage. Let's go. The hypnotist knew that the two cyborgs would die of natural causes if this went on, and he wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin E anymore. As a result, he chose to leave decisively. If the cyborgs died here, he might not be able to escape. Xiaochun also saw the problem. She started the car and was ready to leave. Lingshan, stop that car. The two biohumans were no longer a threat to Lin E, so Lin E could now pay attention to other things. Seeing that the van had actually started, he quickly asked Lingshan to stop it. Even without Lin Yi's reminder, Lingshan had already noticed that there was something wrong with the van. There were people in the van. Shi, Tang Taijung, eldest brother Tang, second brother Tang, and Tang Yuyu surrounded the van. Xiaochun was shocked. She stepped on the gas pedal and wanted to crash into the van, but unfortunately, Tang Taijung reached out and stopped the van with one hand, not allowing it to move forward. The van's tires made an ear-piercing screech against the ground, but it couldn't do anything to Tang Taijung. Tang Taijung might not be able to deal with biohumans, but stopping a van was a piece of cake for a Sky class like him. Lingshan, Boss Tang, and the others used this opportunity to charge into the van, grabbing Xiaochun and the hypnotist out. These two weren't practitioners at all. There was no way they could fight back. If they didn't want to suffer, they could only surrender. When Xiaochun and the hypnotist were captured, the two biohumans fell to the ground, not moving at all. This situation surprised Lin E, but it wasn't out of his expectations. Lin E reached out to check the pulse and breathing of the biohumans. They had both stopped. He was a skilled doctor, and he could tell if they were really dead or not. Seeing that they were really dead, Lin E walked to Xiaoka quickly to check on her. There was still breathing and pulse. This made Lin E sigh in relief. But the next moment, Lin Yi's face became very strange. Xiaoka's breathing and pulse weren't normal at all. It could be said that it was very slow, like the breathing of a hibernating animal. Although she was still alive, she was different from a normal person. Chapter 34:01. This made Lin E go into deep thought. Could it be that Xiaoka only lost her chi? But how would Xiaoka recover her chi? Could she use energy stones? Since it was to increase chi, Lin Yi's art of dragon mastery couldn't do anything. Xiaoka couldn't use the chant right now, and he couldn't forcefully transfer energy into her body. He was panicking, but Lin E quickly thought away. He could try out the Spring Rain skill he'd learned before. Spring Rain could passively recover his teammates' chi. With that thought, Lin E couldn't care about himself anymore. The situation wasn't urgent, and he could recover his injuries later. He used his remaining chi and used Spring Rain once. He didn't use his full strength, but it was definitely effective. After using Spring Rain, Lin E could clearly feel that Xiaoka's chi was recovering. It wasn't completely recovered, but it was a part of it. But Xiaoka's face was still as pale as ever, and there were no signs of her waking up. Could it be that he didn't have enough chi left to wake her up? With that thought, Lin E quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and started using the art of dragon mastery, quickly recovering his injuries and chi. He planned on using Spring Rain again when he was at his peak condition. At that moment, Lingshan had already brought Xiaochun and the hypnotist over. Lin E looked at them, and he froze. Lin E knew these two. After Tianli was tricked, Lu Jing'an. Han Jingjing had asked Tianli to draw out Lang Nima and Chui Mianshir's portraits when she was investigating the case. Lin E took a look, but he didn't know these two, and so he didn't pay much attention. But now that he saw Xiaochun and the hypnotist, he suddenly realized that these two people were actually the two people from back then. Lang Nima, Chui Mianshir, long time no see. Lin Yi was using his arts to recover his chi, but as long as he didn't use any skills at the same time, it wouldn't affect his ability to speak. He looked at Xiao Chun and the hypnotist. He said coldly. Xiao Chun was slightly stunned, and he knew that this was not good. He wanted to bluff his way out of this by saying that he and the hypnotist were just drivers hired by the biohumans and had nothing to do with those people. If he did that, they might just let them go. He fell into Ling Shan's hands. He wasn't too scared. Since Ling Shan was a police, she needed evidence. The bioweapons were dead, and there was nothing she could do if they insisted that they were drivers. He and the hypnotist were both normal people. They weren't practitioners, and Ling Shan would let them go in the end. But it would be a different story if they fell into Lin Yi's hands. Lin Yi wouldn't care about evidence, and now that Lin Yi recognized them as Lang Nima and Shui Mianshi, Lin Yi wouldn't let them go no matter if there was evidence or not. Falling into Lin Yi's hands would only lead to death. With that thought, Xiao Chun felt that it was better for them to fall into Ling Shan's hands. He could say that they were just running errands, and that the real mastermind was the Firewolves. That way, he wouldn't die even if he was sentenced. Officer Song, I'll be honest, Lang Nima and Shui Mianshi are just our aliases. Our real identities are members of the Firewolves. We're just running errands. We'll tell you everything we know, Xiao Chun said. Right. Tricking Lu Tianli was an order from our superiors as well. We're just gang members, we'll be honest. The hypnotist naturally understood what Xiao Chun was trying to say. To be honest, Lin Yi didn't have much interest in them. He didn't like Tianli in the first place. And if it weren't for the fact that he was Han Jingjing's father, Lin Yi wouldn't let him off easily, even if he didn't kill him. He didn't plan on helping Tianli. Since these two wanted to be honest, he'd just have to be honest with Ling Shan. After all, Ling Shan had done a great service for the Firewolves, and the investigation department had always been in charge of the Firewolves. See if they tell us anything about Jiang Wen. If they do, then it means that they're sincere. If they don't, then tell me. I'll open their heads and see if they're lying. Lin Yi said faintly. Xiao Chun didn't want to betray Jiang Wen. He said he was from the Firewolves to cover for Jiang Wen. The Firewolves were huge, after all, and who knew who the higher-ups were? But now, Lin Yi seemed to have his eyes on them, and he knew some of the truth. It seemed like lying was impossible. Xiao Chun sighed helplessly. I'll tell you. The person in charge is someone called Master One. I don't know if he's that Jiang Wen. Yes, everyone calls him Master One. That's all we know. The hypnotist added. Isn't it Jiang Wen? We'll know even if you don't tell us. Ling Shan glared at the two. Let's go, follow me back. Lin Yi healed his injuries in Qi, casting spring rain once more. But what made Lin Yi depressed was that Xiaoka's Qi seemed to have recovered, but she didn't seem to be waking up at all. Shield bro, Xiaoka's sis. Yushu only dared to come over now. She didn't want to disturb Lin when she saw how focused he was. I don't know what's going on with her. I've already recovered her energy, but she still hasn't woken up. Lin Yi frowned and shook his head. Is there something else going on? That's right. Yushu rubbed Xiaoka's head and felt for her breathing. She exclaimed in surprise. Xiaoka, sis's breathing is so weak. It's not weak, it's slow. Lin Yi said, she's like an animal in hibernation right now. I've never seen a problem like this before. Then, will there be a problem? Yushu was startled as well. She didn't think that Xiaoka would cause a problem when she helped Lin Yi. It doesn't seem like her life is in danger for now. Her vitals are very stable, just like hibernation, Lin Yi said. Chapter 34:02. The Inheritor Won't. I suspected that she used up all her chi, but I used the spring rain technique to help her recover her chi. She's fine now, but she hasn't woken up yet. It doesn't seem like that's the reason. Lin Yi shook his head. The only thing we can do now is to bring her back and ask Udake if there's any solution. That's the only way. Yushu nodded. The Hidden House Tang's matter was temporarily solved. Xiao Chun and the hypnotist were caught, and Jiang Wen probably wouldn't cause any more trouble for a while. Lin Yi could leave in peace. However, Lin Yi didn't feel any joy from solving the problem. Xiaoka fainted for no reason at all, and it made his heart heavy. Lin Yi's heart was filled with regret. If he hadn't underestimated the enemy, Xiaoke wouldn't have been hurt. If he had prepared a chi bomb in advance, this wouldn't have happened. During the battle, when Lin Yi was healing, he really thought about compressing a chi bomb or using the puppet made by the Thing and the Jade to help. However, Lin Yi thought that Xiaoke could hold on for a while, so he didn't do that. At that time, Lin Yi's body was weak, and he didn't have enough time to condense the chi bomb. Releasing the puppet, Lin Yi was afraid that others would know his trump card too early. After all, this trump card wasn't ordinary. If the Xianshan ancestor knew about it, Lin Yi would be in even more trouble. As long as Lin Yi wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't let others see this puppet. But now that he thought about it, he should have made a prompt decision. He didn't know that Xiaoke would become like this. If he had known, he would have risked being found out and angering the Xianshan ancestor. When he returned to the hotel, Wang Xinyan was already awake, but she didn't leave. She sat quietly on the bed and waited for Lin Yi. When she saw Lin Yi carrying Xiaoke in, she was shocked. Lin Yi, what happened to Xiaoke? Are you hurt? Not injured, fainted, or... She's hibernating. Lin Yi explained Xiaoke's situation briefly. We'll let her sleep in the energy stones at night. See if it works? Xinyan suggested, thinking of her own situation. I can give it a try, but there shouldn't be much hope. Lin Yi's spring rain martial technique was about the same as the energy stones. Although it wasn't as much as the energy stones, under Lin Yi's all-out effort, Xiaoke had already recovered her pure chi. It shouldn't have much to do with the energy stones. Xinyan nodded and didn't say anything. Lingshan and Yushu were silent as well, and Lingshan was the one who was apologizing for what happened before. She and Yu Xiaoke were enemies. Back then, Yu Xiaoke was a female cat burglar, and she had tried to bring Yu Xiaoke to justice. But now, Yu Xiaoke had done a great deed, helping her settle the Tang matter, and was now unconscious. After putting Yu Xiaoke into the energy stones, Lin Yi called Yu Dake. Mr. Lin, is everything going well on your side? Yu Dake was looking after the house, worried about Lin Yi and his sister. Everything's taken care of, but there's something wrong with Lin Yi sighed. He told Yu Dake everything that had happened in detail. Xiaoke. Yu Dake was a little emotional, but he didn't blame Lin Yi for his and his sister's lives. It could be said that Lin Yi had saved them, and Lin Yi was the one who did it. He couldn't blame Lin Yi right now, but he was really worried about his sister's safety. If someone as strong as Lin Yi couldn't do anything, then was there no hope for his sister? Dake, don't worry, I'll think of something. Xinyan's problem is so serious, and I found a solution in the end. I'll try my best for Xiaoke as well. Lin Yi said, It's nothing, Mr. Lin. I believe that you can definitely wake Xiaoke up, but I'm afraid I don't know what happened to Xiaoke for the time being. When I went home last time, I brought back the Yu family's diary. I'll check it and see if there's any mention of similar situations. Yu Dake said. The journal was long, but he wanted to read it from the beginning for Yu Xiaoke. Okay, I'll wait for your news. Lin Yi didn't get an answer from Yu Dake. It was within his expectations, but Yu Dake said that there might be a solution in the journal, and that gave Lin Yi some hope. How is it? Yushu asked anxiously after hanging up. Sigh, Dake doesn't have a solution. Lin Yi sighed. It seems like we can only ask the old man at home. Yes, Grandpa Lin is so powerful. He must have a solution, Yushu said. Lin Yi nodded and called Lin Dongfang. In fact, if it was a normal thing, Lin Yi wouldn't trouble old Lin easily, but he had no other choice. What's wrong? Why are you calling me all of a sudden? Are you in trouble again? It was said that no one knew a son better than a father, and old Lin was the same. Old Lin, I'm in trouble. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Yu Xiaoke fainted. Yu Xiaoke fainted? Who's Yu Xiaoke? What's she doing? Old Lin paused. He hadn't heard Lin Yi talk about Yu Xiaoke before, and he didn't know how to react when Lin Yi brought it up all of a sudden. Ugh, she's a female friend of mine. Lin Yi sweated and explained, Don't worry about me and her first. I'll talk about her first. With that, Lin Yi told old Lin about Yu Xiaoke getting Nuwa's heaven mending art, as well as the characteristics of Nuwa's heaven mending art, as well as how Yu Xiaoke fainted to help him block an attack. Fainted to block an attack. Old Lin paused. I've never seen this before. Why don't you bring her back? I want to see what's wrong with her myself. That's fine, I'll go back then. Linny didn't have anything else to do, so he decided to go back and ask Old Lin for help. Chapter 34:03. It's not your fault. Lin, he said with a wave of his hand. I'm from the secret investigation department as well, and the department's business is my business as well. I can't just stand by and watch, not to mention that this is about Jiangwen. I've been pissing him off for a long time now, and even if this didn't happen, I'd still do something to him. All right, I'll have to trouble you with little Kuz matter. Lingshan sighed. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Lin, he quickly put away the energy stones on the bed and opened the door to see Tang Taizhong and the others standing outside. Lin, he didn't want outsiders to see these energy stones. After all, one shouldn't show off one's wealth. Master Lin, how's Miss you? Has she woken up yet? If there's anything you need, like precious treasures, just let us know. We, the Hidden House Tang, will do whatever we can. Tang Taizhong said sincerely this time. He knew that House Tang's crisis had been resolved, and with Xiao Chun and the hypnotist caught, the bio-humans wouldn't appear in the near future. Under Lingshan's orders, Eldest Tang and Second Tang had gone to interrogate Xiao Chun and the hypnotist. These two were normal people, so how could they withstand a practitioner's interrogation? House Tang wasn't the police, and they didn't care if their methods were legal or not. Everything was done according to the practitioner's rules, and Xiao Chun and the hypnotist quickly wrote down everything they knew, including the fact that Master Wen was Jiangwen. This saved Lingshan the trouble of interrogating them. Not at the moment, but if there's a need, I won't hold back. Lin, he said faintly, but I have some things I need, and you guys can help me think of a way. No problem. Please tell us, Master Lin. Tang Taizhong said quickly. I have a list here. Elder Tang, please have a look. Lin said as he picked up a pen and wrote down a list. Fine steel mystic iron, black mystic iron, colored steel, black charcoal stone, pure topaz, blue crystal powder, blood of the 5 evils dragon. Tang Taizhong looked at the things written on the list and was stunned. Young hero Lin, you need these things? Not bad. I wonder if Grandfather Tang has one? Linny nodded. I think there are some, but these things don't seem to be very useful. Tang Taizhong didn't know what Linny wanted to do with these things, but he still gave the list to eldest brother Tang next to him and said, Eldest brother Tang, you usually go to the hidden Tang family's treasure vault and look for these things. Yes, father. Eldest brother Tang nodded and went out with Tang Yu. Young hero Lin, I've gotten the confession of that little pure and the hypnotist. Do you want to take a look? Tang Taizhong then brought up another serious matter. To show it to Lingshan, I won't be looking. Lin, he wasn't interested in the two. Did they admit that Master Wen is Jiangwen? They did, and they also said some other things about the firewolves, Tang Taizhong said quickly. Oh, Linny paused. He didn't expect these two to be so soft, saying so much in one go. He was suddenly interested and started reading with Lingshan. As expected, Jiangwen was the mastermind behind all of this. Many of the previous cases also had some clues now. The underground fighting ring, the kidney case, the kidnapping case, the robbery case, all of these were planned by Jiangwen. Many of the people Lingshan caught were Jiangwen's scapegoats, but with Jiangwen's cunning and his identity as a member of the Firewolves, Lingshan couldn't do anything to him in the past. But now that Lingshan was part of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, she naturally had the right to investigate the Firewolves. However, the Firewolves were too powerful, and Lingshan had to investigate them step by step. From the looks of it, the two most important people around Jiangwen were Little Pure and the hypnotist. The hypnotist was the main person controlling the cyborgs. Now that he had been captured, Jiangwen had no choice but to capture him. Even if the cyborgs were created, no one would be able to control them in a short period of time. So there was nothing to be afraid of. Lingshan let out a breath of relief. It seemed like this case could be closed. As for Jiangwen, Lingshan knew that it wouldn't be easy to catch him. She was no longer the reckless policewoman Lingshan from before. Now, She knew how to plan before taking action. That's about it. They've told me everything they know. Lin Yi looked at the crimes written on it, including lying to Liu Tianli. However, he wouldn't be able to get the money back from these two. The mastermind was Jiang Wen, and Jiang Wen had handed the money over to the Firewolves. So, Lin Yi still had to settle the debt with the Firewolves. As they were talking, Boss Tang came back not long later. Tang Yu was behind him, holding 2 boxes in his hands. Evidently, he found what Lin Yi needed. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed, and he was pleasantly surprised. Master Lin, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, Boss Tang said politely. The things you mentioned are not commonly used. We, the Hidden House Tang, have only found 2 of them. One is black mystical iron, and the other is black charcoal stone. As for the others, like pure topaz and blue crystal powder, we had them before, but we didn't think much of them. We gave them away during the Hidden House Summit. Lin Yi nodded. Blacksmiths had disappeared from the world of practitioners for a long time, and without them, these materials weren't very useful. They looked expensive, but they were actually worthless. It was normal that House Tang didn't care about giving them away. However, these 2 things were enough to make Lin Yi overjoyed. Black mystical iron, black charcoal stone. These 2 were what Lin Yi was sorely lacking. As for the other things, Lin Yi really did have them. Blue crystal powder, topaz, colored steel, and even mystical iron. Lin Yi had them all. With these 2 things, the only thing Lin Yi lacked was the blood of the 5 Wrath Dragon. Although this was the hardest thing to get, the other things were all gathered. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. This was a worthwhile trip. Lin Yi didn't hold back. He took the things and said, "Thank you, Grandpa Tang. We'll be leaving now. If there's anything else, you can contact the department." Okay, Master Lin. As a member of the Cultivators Association Alliance, we will definitely follow the department's lead. We won't cause any unnecessary trouble for you, Master Lin. Chapter 3404. Mr. Lin, what about Xiaochun and the hypnotist? Tang Taizhong asked. Lingshan, I'll go to Westar Village. You can go back first? Lin Yi said to Lingshan. There were 2 suspects together, after all, and it wasn't convenient for Lingshan to bring them along. Lingshan did say that she wanted to stay with Lin Yi, since she was responsible for Xiaoka's fainting, but the situation was different now. Lingshan hesitated, but remembering her mission, she said, All right, I'll head back first then. Contact me if anything happens, Lingshan said. All right, I'll head back first. Okay. Lin Yi nodded. However, an unexpected phone call changed Lin Yi's schedule. Lin Yi's phone rang, and he took a look at the caller ID. It was Yu Dake. And so, Lin Yi quickly picked up the phone. Will there be news from you, Dake? Dake, how is it? Did you find the source of the problem? Lin Yi asked quickly after picking up the call. Mr. Lin, I did find a case similar to my sister. It's an ancestor of House Yu, Yu Dake said. Yu Dake said, in the log, there's a mention of fainting. The reason for this problem is that it overdraws the spiritual sense and mental strength in one's body, causing the spiritual sense and mental strength deficit in one's body, which leads to a coma. Spiritual force? Depleted? Lin Yi paused. This was the first time he'd heard of something like this. Yes, when resisting powerful pressure and attacks, if one's own strength has been exerted to the limit and still cannot resist, then if one has a kind of belief, with the help of powerful divine sense and mental energy, one will continue to resist until one's divine sense and mental energy are exhausted. Yu Dake said, You're the person my sister loved, and she didn't want anything to happen to you. So, after her chi was depleted, she relied on her strong spiritual force to hold on. That's why this happened. I see. Although Lin Yi felt that it was a bit of a fantasy, the world of cultivation was like this. It was very difficult to explain it with logic. So, Lin Yi said, How do we wake her up? Or, how do we restore her spiritual sense and mental power? I'm not sure about that. Spiritual sense, spiritual energy, and physical strength are different. This is also the reason why Xiao Ku has not woken up even after you have restored her physical strength and true chi. This diary doesn't record anything about this. It only mentions that my ancestor was helped by a divine doctor. Udake said, "Which miracle doctor? How did you recover?" Lin Yi quickly asked, "I don't know about that. This matter should be recorded in my ancestor's life log instead of the entire family's log. After all, these personal matters are only briefly mentioned in the family's log, but not in detail. For specific details, you still have to look at this ancestor's life log," Udake explained. That's the ancestor's life log. Is there anything else?" Lenny couldn't help but feel nervous. There should be. In our house use ancestral hall, under the ancestors list, there's a life log of each ancestor, Udake said, "But we'll have to go back again, then let's go back." Lin Yi wasn't afraid of a long journey. After all, he had other things to do in Hakanamada Desert. He was too worried about Wang Xinyan. Then, he met Kong Ming Ming's group. Lin Yi didn't want Kong Ming Ming to know why he was here. And Wang Xinyan was in urgent need of energy stones, so Lin Yi went back first. He was in Hakanamada Desert to find a person, and that person was Pangolin. According to the map stolen from the Red Conch headquarters, there was a poison base in Hakanamada Desert, and Pangolin was very likely to be here. According to the distance on land, this was one of the most likely places for Pangolin. So, if he were to go to the Yu's house again, he planned to look for Armadillo, even though he didn't want to. Although the chances were slim, Lin Yi had to go. That was why Lin Yi agreed without hesitation. "All right, as long as Mr. Lin doesn't think it's a long journey, then we'll go." Udake was worried about his sister as well. He didn't have much to do, so it was fine for him to go with Lin Yi. "All right, we'll split up and meet up in the direction of Hakanamada Desert. From here, we'll depart together. The nearest city should be Pengbei City." Lin Yi said, "Let's meet at the highway junction." "All right then, Mr. Lin, can I drive the Land Rover in the garage?" Udake asked. "Land Rover? Of course." Lin Yi smiled. This Land Rover was something Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao had gotten together. When Xiao Xiao had fainted, Lin Yi didn't want to bring up memories, so he didn't drive this car. Xiao Xiao was fine now, and this car wouldn't bring up bad memories for Lin Yi anymore. "Then we'll meet at the highway junction." Udake nodded. Lin Yi hung up and turned to Lingshan, Yushu, and Xinyan. "Lingshan, this time Yushu, Xinyan, bring Xiaoka back. I'm going to Hakanamada Desert again. I might be able to find a solution to Xiaoka's fainting problem there. That's where House Yu is." Lingshan nodded, not saying anything else. After all, Lin Yi had something important to do. Shu, on the other hand, wasn't too willing to go with Lin Yi, but she knew that Lin Yi had to take care of her. "All right, Shield bro, we'll take good care of Xiaoka sis." Yeah, Lin Yi was worried that Shu would follow him, but he didn't expect her to be so understanding and easy to talk to. Lingshan, Yushu, and Xinyan brought Xiaoka to a car provided by House Tang. It was the Land Rover Land Cruiser, while Lin Yi drove the Grand Cherokee. Lin Yi didn't bring you Xiaoka because Udake said that he was saved with the help of a miracle doctor. If they didn't find the miracle doctor, then there was no point in bringing you Xiaoka. Plus, the miracle doctor might not even be in this world anymore. Lin Yi's main goal was to find a solution or find a miracle doctor's heir. Chapter 34:05. Lin Yi didn't think that he'd be going to Hakanamada Desert again in such a short amount of time. The car sped all the way, and it didn't take long for them to reach the highway in Pengbei City. Donghai was quite close, and Lin Yi saw Xiao Xiao's Land Rover at the waiting area not far away. Lin Yi honked twice, and Dake nodded. The two headed towards Hakanamada Desert, one in front and one in the back. This was their second time going, and the two were familiar with the route. They finally reached the Yu house the next day. The place had returned to its usual peacefulness. After the Gu family left, they really didn't come back, and it seemed like they didn't dare to come back anymore. Their backer was killed by Lin Yi, so why would they dare to come back? "Where's the ancestral hall? Let's go," Lin Yi said. "Okay." Dake was concerned about his sister's situation as well, and he brought Lin to a courtyard after a series of twists and turns. There was an ancient building in the courtyard, and this was most likely the ancestral hall of House Yu. Lin, he hadn't seen a real ancestral hall, but he'd seen similar ones on TV, and this place looked quite similar. But just as Dake was about to enter the ancestral hall, he stopped abruptly, and his face changed. He pointed at a plaque in the ancestral hall, a little angry. "Mr. Lin, look." Lin, he raised his head and saw the words Gu Family Ancestral Hall written on the plaque. This made Lin frown. What did this mean? Gu Family Ancestral Hall? Could it be that the memorial tablets here had all been replaced by the Gu families? At the thought, Lin rushed in, and as expected, all the tablets were Gu's. There were no Yu's, and this made Lin very annoyed. The Gu family had lived here for more than 10 years. He must have replaced all the tablets in the ancestral hall with his own. No one would worship someone else's tablet. Wasn't there something wrong with that? Moreover, Gu's son must have run away in a hurry and didn't have time to take these tablets with him. So he left them here. That Gu's son wasn't a filial person. Even if he thought of it, he probably wouldn't take it away. However, then where did the memorial tablets of the Yu family go? Back then, Lin had not paid attention to this. If he had known earlier, he would have asked his son Gu. Now, he could only search for it himself. Yu Dake's face was also very gloomy. There were no Yu family members here. Where could he find the ancestral tablets? "Mr. Lin, let's split up and look for it. Let's see if we've lost the tablet somewhere." Yu Dake could only say that he was trying to find it. After all, the tablet was likely to be lost by the Gu family, so it was definitely impossible to find it. All right, that's the only way. However, let's go to the previous underground treasure vault to look for it. Maybe there's something there? Lin suggested. Okay. Yu Dake nodded. The Yu family's treasure vault was used as a warehouse by the Gu family. The last time they went there was to find Yu Xiaoka's Niwa heaven mending technique. They didn't pay attention to other things. Maybe the tablets were inside. The two went to the warehouse. It was a mess. After the Gu family took over, there were a lot of things placed there. They didn't know what they were. The two went to the left and right and began to search for the tablets in the warehouse. It could be said that they overturned the chests and cabinets. The two tossed and turned from night to the next morning. However, to their disappointment, they couldn't find the tablets. It seemed that the Gu family didn't leave the tablets here. But thinking about it, it was understandable. After all, the Gu family didn't want to keep other people's tablets. However, it made Lin and Yu Dake a little depressed. Let's go to other places to look. Don't be discouraged. Both of them were practitioners. This level of physical exhaustion wasn't a problem. Thus, the two left the warehouse and began to search the house. From the moment the sun rose in the morning until the sun set, the sky was filled with stars. The two of them almost ran through the entire house, but they still couldn't find where the memorial tablet was thrown. If they guessed correctly, the Yu family tablets should have been thrown away. After all, the house had changed its name. Who would be willing to put other people's tablets here? How unlucky would that be? Sigh. Yu Dake sighed. I don't know where the Gu family went. There's no one to ask now. If they threw it away, there's no point asking them. If they didn't throw it away, we can find it. Lin patted Yu Dake's shoulder and comforted him. Let's go to the ancestral hall again. Maybe it's in a corner. Okay. Yu Dake thought that Lin was right, so he stood up and walked to the ancestral hall with Lin. Before, they didn't search the ancestral hall carefully, so they went back at this time. The ancestral hall also had electric lights. Although the house was antique, it had already been integrated with modern civilization. The two began to search in the ancestral hall, but after searching for a long time, they didn't find anything. After all, the ancestral hall wasn't big, and there weren't many things in it. Everything was clear at a glance. Yu Dake sighed and sat on the ground helplessly. Dake, I want to ask you. You said that the ancestor's life log is behind the tablets? Lin, he suddenly thought of a very important question. The tablets are so big. How long can a person's life log be? Can it be written on it? At most, it can only be a few sentences, right? No. As Yu Dake said this, he suddenly stood up and slapped his thigh. Yes, the life log is placed in the wooden trough directly below the tablets. As he said this, Udate quickly ran in front of a tablet and reached out to knock it to the ground. Then, he dug a few times under the tablet. The wooden trough under the tablet opened like a mechanism. After removing the small cover on top, there was a space below, and in the space, there was a book that looked like a small booklet. On the booklet, the words Yu Dang Tian were written. Yu Dang Tian, this was obviously a member of the Yu family. This explained a problem. That was, the Gu family didn't find a small mechanism under the tablet to place the life log. They only threw the tablet on top, but they didn't find the life log in the secret compartment below. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.